National Rescue Consultants presents Train to Live podcast with Herb Tyler, Greg Rogers, and Rob Ramirez. Talking all things fire and technical rescue. So pour a drink and enjoy the show.
What's up, fellas?
What's going on?
Rob, Herb.
What's going on, boys?
What's up, Greg?
How's everything?
What's up, Herb?
Not much. You got a good show today. Looking forward to this one. It's gonna be a good one.
Me too, bud. It's gonna be a great one.
Yeah, I feel like this class is this show is pretty good. It's kind of taken and adding right onto our last week's deal that we had with the whole VES and everything. So it's going to be good.
Yeah, 100%. It's these are two guys that are definitely making a name for themselves in the fire service. It's I've been following them for a while. It's I'm looking forward to it. Looking forward to just talking shop with these boys.
Same here. These two guys have been killing it. If you've been to a conference anywhere in the state of Florida or outside the state in the last couple of years, you've heard of these two gentlemen. They're all over the place. They're part of that, 10%ers, 1%ers at times, and they're very like-minded brothers. And I'm myself excited to talk shop with them on a Friday night and see what's on their mind. We'll get right into the introductions. Our two guests today are Pablo Gener and Sean Duffy from Build Your Culture. Pablo's a 13-year fireman. He's had special ops team experience. He's an instructor at the Marion County Fire Rescue Training Division. He's a peer fitness trainer at the Marion County Fire Rescue Health and Wellness Center. He's participated and taught at multiple fire conferences, full events across the nation, and instructed. He's been a Fools member since 2008. Pablo's one of those guys that gets me fired up every time I hear him talk. I've known him for many years, and I'm super psyched to have him on the show. Sean Duffy. If you haven't seen Sean speak or heard him speak, or you haven't heard of him in the Florida area, you've been living under a rock. Been on the job for about 16 years. Currently works for the city of Venice in Southwest Florida. He's worked for both city and county fire departments. He's one of the co-founders of the Build Your Culture company. He's developed courses entitled Searchable versus Survivable, Educated Decision Making at the Fireground, and Build Your Culture, Professionalism or Minimalism. I've had the honor and the ability to listen to him speak a couple times. I've watched a bunch of his other podcasts and interviews. The guy's a total stud, and him and Pablo make a great team. Sean, along with Pablo, have taught at several conferences throughout the country, and they also remain active members of the Marion County Fools chapter. And bottom line, man, he just enjoys passing his knowledge that he's gained throughout the years to the students of the game. And without further ado, let's get him on the show.
What's up, fellas?
What's going on, fellas?
Hey guys, how are you?
Doing good.
Yeah, thank you guys for having us on, man. Thank you.
Thanks for being here, man.
We're excited.
It's going to be one of those events, just like we talked about when we asked you guys to come on. It's literally it's like we're sitting at the firehouse talking shop, no holds bars. So it's going to be an epic time, I think.
Fuck yeah.
Hey, yeah, absolutely. It's going to be good times.
I'd like to comment on Greg's mustache. Looks amazing. And Pablo's shirt looks amazing as well.
Pablo's shirt he's filling every ounce of that thing out, dude.
I trained to live, boy.
Hey, he's rocking the Train to Live body paint edition shirt.
Yeah. You're going to be our new cover boy. No doubt about that, dude. We're going to be pulling them.
I'm in.
Medium.
Double X medium. It's a new size we got.
There's two ways for everybody to know in this world that we fucking work out. One, you got to post it on Facebook. And two, you got to wear a really small shirt. Other than that, nobody knows.
No, you're missing the third one, man. You got to jiggle your titties. Go ahead.
Boom, boom.
That's the toast of the night right there. I'm going to drink to that.
Titty jiggle. Here's the titty jiggle.
Nice.
Guys, that's the first male titty jiggle we've had on the show.
Yes.
You're welcome.
We're going to have to up the ratings to R. It was PG until Pablo came on.
Exactly.
Oh, dude, you have no idea. He took all the words I needed to use the last time we worked together. right.
You were so pissed, bro. You were so pissed.
Hey, so I'm gonna get it off my chest before we start.
They told Robbie that he couldn't curse, and he, for whatever reason, listened.
Yeah, so we're teaching at this church, right? And it was a church. The conference rented out a church.
It was a church.
So I come out of the hole. I'm the first speaker, and the guy tells me, "Hey, no cursing. The guy's here, no problem." I behaved for an hour straight. Fast forward after lunch, Pablo goes up there. He didn't give a shit. He was dropping F-bombs every other word. He was freaking using every adjective, every four-letter word I've ever heard. And he wasn't being shy about it. At least 40 fucks an interview, absolutely. And I was so upset that he used all the words. I'm over here making up words that don't even exist. Just trying not to cuss.
Oh, man. That's good stuff. We did a class too, and we had to slide over into the church, and the other instructor I was with was like, "Hey man, should we be cussing in here?" We're like, "Nah, it's the Sunday school deal. It's not really the church. We let it ride. Just let it go."
No. Pablo let it rip, bro. Let it rip. I was so jealous too.
So jealous.
So jealous.
Oh man.
And you refused to wear the headset too. I remember you wouldn't wear the headset or the mic because people could hear you in the bathroom.
Yeah, I couldn't. So I didn't wear a headset because I went to the bathroom. This is when Robbie was on. I went to the bathroom and I'm in the pisser. You know, I'm taking a leak, and all of a sudden I hear his voice, and I look up and there's a little speaker right over the bathroom, all over the urinals, and I literally hear his voice, and I'm like, "There's not a fucking way in hell I can wear this speaker." And like, there's like classes going on across this entire thing. If I wear this speaker, I'm gonna be blasted all over this like 10,000 square foot church. Like, no, that's not gonna happen. So fuck it. I went a cappella on that shit.
He did.
Nice.
He did. Fucking unbelievable. It was beautiful. I had a blast. I'm still jealous.
Hey, so
all right, Harry, I'm gonna go ahead and lead off.
Let's do
All
it.
right, let's get right into it, boys. You guys are very well known for your searchable versus survivable program. It's one of my favorites. I love the shift in culture. I remember a couple years back when it all became about identifying, profiling buildings, identifying survivable spaces, and that became like the niche class. It became the word every instructor in every conference was using. Survivable space, victim profiling, building profiling, and a lot of guys hung their hat on it and did a lot of classes on that. And then we had a culture shift, and I'm gonna go ahead and lead this off and ask you guys about the mindset behind one of your best known classes, searchable versus survivable. I'm gonna ask you guys, take turns. Please talk a little bit about that idea, where it came from, and why it's important for our members to understand the difference between the two, and why you saw that need to go out there and start that message.
Awesome. Well, I'll lead it off because this conversation fires me up every single time, and I absolutely love it. I could talk for days on this shit. So you hit the nail right on the head when you talked about profiling, right? Mm-hmm. That shit pisses me off so bad because depending on who you ask, it means different things, right? And I think that what happened was it was easy for people to show up onto the fire ground and just say, nah, everyone's dead. Mm-hmm. I'm not doing anything. And there's really like no repercussion for that, which is fucking terrible, right? So I started thinking about all my frustrations on fires that I was going to and things that I've watched and manpower not being used and the excuses I heard. And everybody at the table does the same thing. They all seek some sort of validation afterwards, right? Like, hey, you saw what I saw, right? There's no way that anybody could be alive in there, right? Right. And to me, if you're at that point where you're seeking that validation, you know you fucked up. You didn't do the right thing. And because of that, I was like, we got to do a better job of realizing that we're awesome in the fire service at assigning names to shit, but we're not really good at understanding why we're doing it. So I believe it was Chief Isaacson. He said, searchable's up to us, survivable's up to God, period. And I started thinking about that. I'm like, there's all kinds of things that go on in a fire scene that we don't have control over. But the one thing that we are taught all the way back from recruit school is life safety. Number one priority on the fire ground. Always has been, always will be. It's not going to change. And if that is our number one priority, then why are we putting it way down on this list of tactical priorities on the fire ground?
Yeah.
Just didn't make sense to me. So Pablo and I were at Orlando Fire Conference about 2019, and we were talking about it, you know, and we were just pretty fired up. And I said, it's searchable versus survivable. It's really that simple. The objective should always be there to get in there and search the spaces that we have left, period. Hand that victim off to EMS who's outside, and the rest is there. But you did your job. You searched and you found a victim. I just have a huge problem with people just immediately assuming nobody's in the building, you know? And so when we titled that, that's the whole reason we titled it that, because we wanted people to think the difference between the two, right? If I say to you, search profiling, you might tell me something different. If I say to Pablo, what's, you know, tenable space, he might say something different. So it's really about sizing up our search effort. If we can keep it that simple and realize, like, I can get in this building or I can get in this space with my bunker gear and I can search it, then you owe it to them to do so. Building construction, high windows, all that kind of stuff. If you got a fire with a high exhaust point, man, there's still like 3 to 4 feet below that window that's clean air, and that person's sucking that clean air, and you're just going to write them off because of your observable conditions from the exterior. I can't like wrap my head around why that's okay. So I just wanted to get, you know, the facts out there from the rescue surveys, show people where we're more successful, get that aggressive mindset back, and show them, like, hey, you know, it might just be one room and that's okay, but at least you can walk away from that fire scene knowing you did everything you could do. And you know, if we're telling people to close their doors at night like we've been, you got to get your ass in that building, period, because they're expecting you to come get them, and we're not doing it. So that's kind of my spiel on it, of what initiated me to start that class. And I'll let Pablo chime in on what his feelings are on it, but you know,
brothers, they're not too different from yours, brother. I mean, obviously, it's something that we that we share similar feelings on. You know, from my experiences throughout just traveling and just being involved with Fool chapters, and the cool thing about being a part of a Fool's chapter is that you're able to see different parts of the state and be privileged to see different people operate. It's not just your own department. So from when I speak, I'm not just speaking about my own department or other departments I've worked for. I'll talk about, because I've been an active Fools member for the better part of 13 years. I've been able to witness a lot of different cultures throughout the state and country, and just different and pick the brains of different individuals. Hence the reason we're all sitting here right now. But two things that we completely suck at in general is ladders, and like placing ladders, ladder placement, ladder throwing, getting comfortable with ladders. That's a different story for a whole different day. But the other thing that we just absolutely fucking suck at is searching for whatever reason. So if you think about this like this, right? When we get off the rig, from an engine standpoint, we drop hand lines. Let's just say, for argument's sake, we do everything great. We stretch properly. We do the 360. We harp on all this type of stuff to make sure our engine companies are doing the proper thing. But the search, everybody goes to the front door and fucking just goes in and just either goes right or left, because that's all they know, because that's all they've been taught. That's what makes them feel safe. Nobody does a 360. Nobody does a 360. Nobody looks at the layouts. Nobody looks at the buildings. Nobody. When I get off the rig, when I'm on a rescue company, an ambulance down here for the state of Florida, whoever watching from across the country, whenever I'm on the ambulance and I'm assigned to a search, I do a 360. I want to look at the building layout. All the windows are going to tell me a different story. All of this, like Sean said, the high exhaust points. I'm looking for high exhaust points. I'm looking at where the fire's at. Where am I going to start my search at? What is the best search that I'm going to be able to do for these people? Is it going to be a straight up the gut search into the Alpha side or Bravo side or the Charlie side? Is it an Orient Man search? Is it a split search? Is it a VES? Is it a VES beyond the door? You know, like, we just don't know how to search for whatever reason. We're scared to death. Let's be honest about this. This is an honest conversation. We're fucking scared to death to search. And so that's where, when we talk about, like, when we talked about this at OFC, Sean and I, one of the things that we discussed is we're tired of that mentality of the survivability profiling, of the not understanding how to do your own 360s. I wrote down little things here to remind myself, but looking down, the mentality of no one is alive in there. Like, where the fuck did that mentality come from? Like, I don't understand that. Like, that's not my job. My job as a tactician is to understand what the building is letting me know, what the fire is letting me know. As a tactician, I should be able to control the building. This is something that's interesting, especially for the brothers and sisters that are listening from across the country that fight fires in bigger tenements, and even you guys down there in the South Florida area. But from bigger tenements to suburban areas, this is something that the suburban firemen have that, in my opinion, is actually a benefit to us. Yes, from a suburban standpoint, our tactics, our fires burn quicker because we have smaller structures. My bread and butter structure is a 1,300, 1,400 square foot home. Yes, it doesn't burn as much as slow as a 3-story or 4-story brownstone or a multi-dwelling or something along those lines. Those guys might have a little bit more time. They have their own issues. Don't get me wrong. But one thing that we have to our advantage from the OVM standpoint, which nobody fucking understands, you master the OVM position, you master the fire ground. That's one fucking thing straight up. So from an OVM standpoint and a suburban firefighting standpoint, you cannot tell me that we cannot dictate where the fire is going to go. I could dictate where that fire is going to go by depending on where I'm going to put my hole, whether it be a vertical vent, whether it be a horizontal vent, whether it be isolating a door. I could dictate where that fire is going to go, especially in the suburban setting, especially on our 12 or 1,300 square foot residential. That's something that we really need to understand. So when it comes to just like why we started the class is because, simply put, we're scared to throw ladders. It's training scars that follow from the academy. We're scared to death of fucking ladders. You can't throw them. You can't use them as tools. You can't step over them. God forbid you fucking slam them. You drag them. We're fucking scared to death of ladders, and we're scared to death of searching. And so it's just one of those things. So ironically, just one of the two things that I really, really enjoy is just ladders, obviously, and searching. And I found my little partner in crime is Sean, because he literally we have conversations of hours about all this stuff.
Is that the answer? Is his microphone on? Hey, was his microphone on? Did anybody hear him?
So maybe
no, I didn't hear him.
Saying, so that was a maybe then, is what you're saying? No,
I love the passion.
Hey, I want to add to something to that. Sean, what you said too, the searchable.
That's just Pablo.
No, Sean said it first. Oh yeah, the whole page. I got it too. I got some Spanish on there too. I'm gonna have to get you to translate that later, Rob.
Hey, I got you, Macho.
Thanks, Papa. So the searchable versus tenable, it's the person's crew and their comfort zone. That's what it is. So they're not going to push any farther. They're like, ooh, I feel kind of comfortable right here. I can't see my feet, or I'm down on one knee and my hip flexors are tight, or whatever. Nobody wants to lay on their belly. Nobody wants to go up to the top of the stairs and stick their head in that smoke and take a look to the left or the right, check that tick, and then go, hey, man, we got to move. You know what I mean? Nobody wants to do that anymore. And like you said, you killed it when you said that. This shit's over, dude. Turn this thing off. That was the answer for the whole thing.
That was it. No, the thing is, like, people's actions are often dictated by their experiences, right? So if we're not training and we're learning from people who probably don't train either, or maybe have never been to a fire where they've had to search, then obviously the level of importance on their scale kind of drops down. All right. For me, I'm going to expect victims every single time, period. I don't care if it's a shed fire. You just don't know, especially in today's fire environment where there's a lot of poverty, man. People are converting places to livable spaces that should never even be livable spaces. I mean, I've got a picture in our slideshow where it's literally somebody took a shed, attached it to their double wide mobile home, built a hallway, and put their kids in there. And that's where their kids stay every night. From the exterior, if you're not doing a 360 and you just look at that real quick, you're just going to think it's a shed, right? So we're getting really bad at not really inspecting everything either. And when we do the 360s, it shouldn't just be for fire. It's got to be for search too. And, how many times have you heard this shit and it fucking drives me nuts? I can't stand it. Oh, well, nobody's ever inside anyway. oh, I've been to 15 fires and I haven't found a victim. Chances of you getting a grab in your career is so slim. I don't give a shit if that's true or not. It's not about that. It's about you said you were going to do something. You took that oath when you said that, and the citizens expect you to do what you were going to say, or do what you told them that you were going to do. So at the end of the day, I think firemen are fucking scared of the dark, man. I really do. Like, oh gosh, if I go into this hallway and it's dark, I can't see where I'm going, so I've got to hold on to this wall. Because what do we tell them? If you leave that wall, you're dead. What happens if you can't find a hose line? What happens if the door shuts behind you? And it's just like all of these, like Pablo said, these training scars. Man, we're not even changing how we do shit in fire academies, right? It's literally the same shit now than it was when I went through fire academy. And it boggles my mind because we say what? Don't worry, they'll show you when you get out there. Problem with that is if the guys that are supposed to be mentoring and teaching you this stuff haven't taken it upon themselves to read the studies from the UL or the rescue surveys that are coming out where it shows like time of day and where we're finding our victims, if they're not up to par on that stuff, how are they going to teach you it? And we're so bad about beating young firefighters down who are passionate about the job, who want to learn. We say shit like, oh, you're a ketchup dick, or just get on the ambulance and do that shit because that's what you're here for. And we've taken that importance right out of it. So what do you think is going to show up, or what's going to happen when we show up on scene? Hey, we've never put that as a top priority. So
absolutely. We get beat down by EMS so much. And don't get me wrong, EMS pays the bills. I understand that, but we get beat down by EMS so much that we hate on the guys that want to continue to strive to be better on the fire side for whatever reason. I don't understand that, and I see that across the country quite a bit. And like to piggyback on the point of like you have to, like all of a sudden you come out of fire standards and you go into the firehouse, and now you've never been taught any better. So you continue to do kind of like the minimum standards type thing. And then the next guy comes in, or the next girl comes in, and you're teaching him or her minimum standards. And then it's a vicious cycle, and it's a vicious cycle, and it's a vicious cycle. Well, how do you break it? Well, and there's different ways of breaking that. So you could make the argument of like, well, I'll go to a busy battalion. Yeah, but if you go to a busy battalion and you never seek outside information, how do you know if you're doing it wrong? Because you don't know. You technically don't know if your department is doing it wrong. This is for everybody out there. There's a chance that your department could be doing it wrong. There's a chance that you could be doing it wrong. There's only one way of knowing, which is stepping outside of your comfort zone. So if let's just say you stay in a busy battalion, but never take another outside class ever again, you don't know anything other than that busy battalion. And then on the other end of the spectrum there, you are at a very slow house because you like to sleep, but you enjoy the hell out of going to conferences and trying to get better, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And you go to fucking 10 conferences a year. But now you have all this outside information, but you fucking ran like 3 calls a shift for the last 10 years. You have no fucking experience. So you have to be able to quote my boy Jason Lynn. I hope he's watching tonight. Jason Lynn, I love you, man. You're the best. You have to be able to look at both sides of the fence, you have to straddle the fence and look at both sides of the yard and not apologize for it. You have to be able to go to conferences and seek a busy battalion. You can't just be in a busy battalion and not go to outside conferences, and you can't just be at a slow station and not seek outside conferences. You have to be able to see both sides of the fence, and that's what's going to start getting you that knowledge. That little hamster wheel is going to start going right there.
Yeah. Let me just piggyback on that real quick, and I don't mean to overrun everybody, but if I don't say this shit, I'll fucking forget it. So here it is, right? We've all heard that, like, when it comes to teaching and passing on knowledge and all that good stuff, that like our ceiling should be their floor, right? Like, that's great. Problem with that, though, is that the people that are tasked these days with sharing that knowledge or training people, they have limited experience. So what does that mean? That means that their ceiling is low. They're only going to train their crew to the whatever their capability is. So when you look at fire departments who promote very young, and that, let's say that officer is 6, 7, 8 years on the job, Not that that's a terrible thing, but it's about experiences. If you haven't been to fires and you haven't stretched line and you haven't searched and you haven't done all these things, then you have no business teaching anybody else how to do it because you have nothing to compare it to. And then,
Absolutely.
it really boils down to the knowledge is theory until proven otherwise. Well, where do we prove it? We prove it on the fucking fire ground, plain and simple. And if you're not going to fires to test that shit out, you have no idea what works and what really doesn't work in real world situations. But yet we tell these guys, this is how it needs to be done. And then we send them into buildings, or we don't in most cases, because we're afraid they're going to get hurt. That means you failed. You didn't train appropriately, and you didn't train your personnel appropriately to do the jobs that they're supposed to be doing.
That's 100% right. Pablo's comment, your comment, both on point. The fact that you guys get around, one of the greatest things I found being able to do these types of trainings, the fact that we talk to each other all the time, the fact that we all in our own areas teach and travel, whether we all started within our fire departments and we're fortunate enough to expand and become part of a conference circuit or just anything that we do that's contributing and giving back to the fire service has been a real blessing. We work for the fire service. Our patch may say the city of who pays the name of the city, insert the city that pays your bill on your patch in the back of your turnout gear. But we're all members of the fire service. And like Pablo said, your department may be doing it wrong. And you'll never know because you can't read the label from inside the jar. You need somebody who's outside the jar to read the label for you. All right. And that's just 100% true. All right. Write that down, Pablo. I see you. All right. So, hey, truth be told, when guys go to conferences, but they don't get the reps at work or vice versa, that's a very common problem when you talk about like information without application. You have all this information in here and all this data, but you're lacking the application. And then that's equally as dangerous as when you have a bunch of information, but you can't really figure out how to apply it because you've never actually left a classroom setting and gotten the reps in manually, throwing that ladder to where your body doesn't know you're throwing a ladder. Like you said, Pablo, many times. It's another ladder throw. It's not a training ladder throw. It's not a live fire. It's just another ladder throw. Yeah. So I love what you guys are hitting on, and you're making this like the easiest show ever. We don't even have to talk. What do you guys think, Greg?
So mine's a 37-part question because of everything that just happened. So a couple things that hit on all that. Like I said, all that's important. I agree 100%. I didn't need to say anything because that's exactly the way you guys are saying it. I 100% agree. But a couple things Pablo hit on. If you master the OV, you master the fire ground. I couldn't agree more. When I used to be a truck captain downtown, I hit hard on my driver about sizing the building up, walking the outside, knowing what's going on, listen to the radio, follow the engine company, what's going on, where's going on. He was solid and we were starting to get it. But like you said, I don't know if it's afraid or it's like, well, we're going to get scolded by our chief or our daddy because, don't throw too many ladders because, it's only a small fire we want to clean up. But the thing that gets me is I had to write this down because I knew this was going to come up. This is a perfect time. So all these hose guys, I'm not taking anything away from it. I've never been a hose guy. I agree with everything they do. Very cool. The GPM versus the fire flow when they do all that. These guys are like, oh, we need 300 GPMs. We need it today, but they only flow it for 10 seconds or 20 seconds. So you don't need 300 GPMs if you do the math. You absolutely don't. So when you go in and search and you're going in and doing, and the volume of fire is pushing out and you're throwing ladders, and like you said, it's a high exhaust point, and you look in that window and you're like, I think I could get my scrawny little body through that because I know if I can get through this sill and I drop to the ground, I got 36 inches in residential underneath. There could be a whole family under there.
Oh, yeah.
So you look at that. And then if you do go in and it gets a little shittier and you got to lay down on the ground and get your gear dirty and go change it out later because of, clean gear in your truck and all that kind of, don't get me started on that. But if you do all that and you get dirty, guess what? I know how to get back to my ladder because I'm oriented. I know what's going on. I grab a Vic, I take them. I'm in the smoke. Guess what? I have air. That's what we friggin' train on, man. That's the shit that kills me. And if it intensifies or whatever the case may be, then we're going to push our way out the door. Hopefully, grab a Vic. First move, closing the door on VES. If we can, we're going to push the corner. I mean, Rob, you hit the numbers on the last one. The majority of the people were found in the adjacent room.
Mhm.
Yeah,
So
to the fire.
you almost have to push to the next room. It's almost like guaranteed. Should be a standard.
Yep.
So
Yeah,
Be-
Greg, I
beyond
love
the
that you
door.
brought that up. I love that you brought the beyond the door up. So I'm gonna back up just for a second and touch on something else, and then circle back around to it. When we talk about search, we tend to think of it as like a one task, and it's not. You're not just searching, you're recon too, especially if you're ahead of the line. If you're ahead of the line, you could be controlling flow paths by closing doors behind, while you're going. You're also identifying where that fire is. You can isolate it if you get to it and you're able to. You can relay all that information back to the engine company or the truck company who's on the roof of where they need to cut their hole or where this fire's at to stretch that line to. So you're doing a lot of things while you're searching. The other thing is, during search trainings, we're not teaching people to shut that door behind them. Like when you enter a room, close that freaking door. We're not teaching them to do that. And it's the concern is what happens if you search without a line and then you get cut off by the fire? Well, hey, if I'm searching room by room systematically, like I'm supposed to be doing, and I'm closing that door behind me, if I open that door and there's a shit ton of fire, I'm going to close that door and I'm going to bail out a window, right? Like we overcomplicate these things and we put fear into people of what could happen if things go wrong. Well, this is a fucking dangerous job, man. And if you think that nothing's going to go wrong, then you're probably in the wrong line of work.
Yeah, go sell fucking ice cream.
Yeah, nobody wants anything to happen to them or their brothers and sisters in the fire service, but I mean, that is life. It happens, right? We have to be aggressive and get in there and do these things because we don't have much time. And when we're talking about exhaust points and all that kind of stuff, that unprotected airway will fail at 187 degrees once it's exposed for like 20 seconds. You're done, right? So think about that in time. And the three things that I have to tell everybody when we're talking search is, hey, what is your knowledge? What is your ability? And what is time, right? How long does it take you to do all these things? What is your knowledge of what it is about to do? What is your physical ability? What, like all of that matters before we even enter this building. So if we're so fixated on, I have to stay on a line or I have to stay on a wall, that means you didn't properly size up your building when you were outside. Because if you did, you would be oriented somehow to what's going on. And when you go into a room and you close that door and you're like, oh, this is a bed, this is a dresser, whatever. Hey, dumb shit, I'm in a bedroom, right? Like, so we overcomplicate things and then just stick this like really, really bad label on it. And it scares people. They don't want to do their jobs because if they do, they get in trouble, right? So there's a couple things that we're talking about. And then when we come back to VES Beyond the Door, I couldn't agree more because your standard bedrooms, at least here in South Florida, three or four, right? So we'll say four. When we're teaching VES to go like in one window and then come back out and reposition and go in another window, not only is that like painfully slow and waste time and energy, but you're only focusing on 1/3 or 1/4 of that structure, which is like not efficient at all, so we have to get better at, like, if we're teaching guys like words like, hey, hook and look or light fire layout, and this is what we want you to do as soon as you force doors, then that's what you should do once you get to that door of that VES room too, and identify, hey, is this something I can push past, right? And if you can, great. If you happen to have two people, which is I'm a huge fan of, I don't like leaving someone out the window. I think that's stupid personally, but that's just me. Hey, we're searching together. We clear this room quickly. The person that gets to the door can shut the door and monitor conditions, whether that be just on the other side of the door in the hallway or in that fire room, whatever. It's about being force multipliers. You only have so much staffing. You have to use it to the best of your advantage and clear as much space, because once it's lost, it's lost. You're not getting it back. Anybody in that space is lost too. And you have to move with a purpose. And we literally teach these Congo line searches. Don't let go of the leg. Don't let go of this. Tell them where the door is. Tell them where a window is. Shut the fuck up. I don't want to hear you talk unless it's, I have a victim or this room is clear, because you're just cluttering my mind with everything. And I have to stop what I'm doing to re-engage you and say, what did you say? Focus on the task at hand and systematically move forward in a way that makes sense and let go of my fucking leg because I'll kick you in the face.
The more you talk, the more scared you are. And I've noticed that. The more you talk, the more scared you are. Simple commands, and that comes with setting the standard in the morning when we talk to each other. Rescue companies, guys that do searches, don't talk to each other enough in the mornings. Be like, hey, who's got the can? Who's got the irons? Who's got the search? Who's going to be Orient Man? Who's dragging the Vic out? Who's on radio commands? Nobody talks to each other when they do that in the mornings for whatever reason. So what happens when you get to the fire room? And we see it all the time in training. What happens in training is going to fucking happen in the fire room. If you fucking think that that's not going to happen in the fire room, because you're out of your mind. What happens in training is going to happen in the fire room. And in training, what happens? As soon as you turn off the lights, come on, everybody's there, been there. You turn off the lights, so Sean and I are searching, and you turn off the lights. Next thing you hear from me is, Sean?
Mommy, where did you go?
Come on, so it's like, and that just falls back to lack of knowledge of what your partner's abilities are. There's different talent levels to this shit, boys. We're lying to each other if you fucking think that there's not different talent levels to this profession, to any profession. I know Shane Bentley's out there. He's going to laugh at this shit. But as I've been saying it for fucking years, you line up 10 fucking astronauts next to each other, and I'm guaranteeing you, I'll put my fucking paycheck on it. One of those astronauts is going to look at you and be like, hey, you don't want to fucking go to space with that fucking idiot. Just because they're astronauts don't mean that you're fucking flying well, bro. There's different levels of talent to what we do. And at some point or another, we need to stop fucking bullshitting each other and be like, oh, we all do the same job. Bro, if you fucking grab a pickup truck right now and put a hitch on it and you ask someone to fucking back it up, one of the people in this thread is going to fucking back that shit into a fucking wall. The truth of the matter is there's different levels of talent, but yet we all have driver's licenses. The state of Florida says we all drive the same. Come on, there's different levels of talent. Why do we lie to each other? I just don't understand. Like it is what it is. I just took Trench, for example.
Oh no, Tom Johnson. What is it with these workout guys?
He's been tommed.
What is it with these workout guys? The more you work out, the shittier your Wi-Fi gets.
Hey, just to add to that too, what you were saying, Duff. I think everybody gets wrapped in on labels too. Like, oh, you know what? I got to be. They said oriented search, or they said it's got to be targeted. It's like, why can't we use all our skills? Why do we have to just use one and stick with it? Why can't we go into the door, we oriented, we push to the next room? Now I got to anchor a guy on the door. Now I'm going to push 2 more rooms and come back. Yeah, I don't understand why it has to be one or the other.
Think about it like this. What is a VES? What is it? It's a title that we put on something as a tactic, right? It's just a tactic. It's our mode of entry into that room. Period.
It's a primary search.
It's a primary search. Right. So
absolutely.
Let's just keep it simple. We literally will put fucking umpteen people through a front door and crowd the hallways with firefighters trying to get to the fire and do all this other shit. But we lose our goddamn minds when we put a firefighter through a fucking window. Like, holy shit, you just did something terrible. And realistically, we've not the percentage of people that are saved from a VES is almost 50%. Almost 50% of the time when we do a VES and we find a victim, they survive. And the death toll from doing a VES, very, very low. I think the last one was like in 1989 out of FDNY, right? Point I'm getting at is, again, we're gonna use fear to tell people why they shouldn't do something because we don't understand it, and we put titles to things, right? I don't care if Pablo and I are going into a building. All I need to hear from him is I'm going right. The minute we say right hand, our brains go, I got to put my hand on the wall right now, right? If I say oriented search, again, if you don't understand what that means and you haven't trained on it, what am I going to do? I've got a window, I've got a bed, I've got a door, I've got whatever. Because I think that's what an oriented search is. Just drop all the bullshit and just search, man. It's really that simple. Be fast, be thorough, be efficient, move with a purpose, and you're going to be okay. We get ourselves in trouble when we dick off in a building because it takes us 15 minutes to clear a primary search because we're on our hands and knees crawling like 2 feet per second. It's like, come on.
My
think
favorite
about
is
what we're doing.
my favorite is when you're in a all wood house with true wood floors, and they tell you to bang the tool on the door, and you got two teams searching. It sounds like you're at a concert. You can't
Yeah.
hear or orient yourself because there's so much noise.
Yeah, and I'll tell you right now, I have never found a victim in a building standing upright against the fucking wall. So
Never.
when I come in, maybe because I wasn't the one that did the primary and I'm doing something else on that fire, and I see handprints all the way across, that tells me right there, you guys didn't really search. You just kind of
Yep.
went along the wall, right? And here's the other part that we're missing. When we don't learn how to split off from each other and keep contact and cover more space, it is a painfully slow search, because let's say we go right and we go that way and we go to a wall and we stay right. Everything in that building is a right turn, which means that I'm just literally following one wall.
Absolutely.
Okay. I'm missing the other 6, 7, 8, possibly 10 feet that's in that area that I have to go all the way around until I come back to.
Yeah.
That's a problem.
That's how firemen get lost on fucking kitchen islands.
Yeah.
I mean, nerd out. I every single time that I ever teach a class or regurgitate information, I always say, nerd out on information. Go read some NIOSH reports. Google line of duty injuries as opposed to line of duty deaths. We're not fucking killing 100 guys a year like people want to believe we are, but we do injure some members here and there. Google your line of duty injuries. Google your NIOSH reports on searches. We got guys that literally get hurt on kitchen islands.
Yeah, and if you want to get technical, you can go out. This isn't bullshit. I don't spew bullshit. Everything I say, you can look up if you want. Go on U.S. Fire Administration's website, and you can pull up the data that they have from all the line of duty deaths from when they first started to current. And if you do that, what you're gonna find is that like 3 people, we say 100 firefighters a year die, right? Todd Edwards touched on that when he did his class here. And it's true. That's what we always say. Oh, we're killing 100 firefighters a year.
Right.
Okay, that's not on like actual fire grounds though, right? I think it's like 3 firefighters. If you pull up the latest statistics, 3 firefighters have died by operating search and rescue. And guess what? Most of the time, it's not the actual task that's killing them. It's something like cardiac arrest, or they had a stroke while they're in there, or something like that, right?
Yep.
So it's a medical reason, not the actual act itself of searching for victims. Very few of them are getting caught in collapses and being overrun by fires and things like that. So again, you owe it to everybody to know it.
That's the same concept as, some of these incident commanders and everything don't put people on the roofs because everyone who goes on lightweight trust falls through and dies. It's like there hasn't been anybody that's done that.
But
you know what I mean? Like, where are you getting your info?
Absolutely. Learn how to walk it. I understand that it's lightweight roof construction. I understand that. I'm not stupid. I live in the state of Florida. My house is built the same way. But there's a new word out there for you guys. It's not a new word. I'm just fucking around. Oxymoron. There's those 2 things that don't fucking come together. You can make a lightweight roof construction, which is not safe if you know how to walk it properly. And don't walk cross country. Our decking is failing first. Read that on absolutely.
And let's I'm not trying to turn it into a roof or truck class or anything, but sounding the roof drives the movement,
bro.
That's so to sound on the floor for search, though.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, how it's not hard. We're not rocket scientists.
It's not, and it's one of the things. So I started, and I stopped saying when I started doing, ironically, I'm doing vertical vent now for one of the, I'm one of the cadres that's doing a vertical vent for my department right now. I stopped saying the word sounding, and this is a reason why. I was like, for whatever reason, we bring that word sounding with us. It's just something, and I say it, and I'm like, stop, get out. We need to realize that we're not getting up there and sounding for a roof. We're checking for the integrity of the roof. And so it's like one of those things. Like it's your 5th fire ever, 4th fire ever. You're assigned to the roof. It's your first ever vent job. The fire engine is sitting about 35 foot outside the front door. She's screaming, and every freaking rescue division, tanker, whatever the fuck is across the radio saying, "I need an assignment. As you're taking the roof. you're on air because God forbid we get anywhere near an IDLH environment without being on air. We die instantly. I don't know if you knew that, but you're already on the roof and you're on air, so you're going. You're scared to death because we don't take the human element of this job into consideration. We never, ever, ever do. So you're 100. Your heart rate's already 100. Yeah, I know you do, Baba. So your heart rate's already 130, and all of a sudden we're sounding for the roof. Not a chance in hell. We got to check for integrity though. Check for the integrity of the roof and see and to see where you're at and how you walk, and then obviously walk your outside hips, your ridges, your valleys, all this type of stuff, your load-bearing walls, to make yourself a job that's inherently dangerous, an oxymoron, safe as fuck.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
Cool.
And also to touch on something that Duffy hit a little bit ago. All of us went to fire school a long time ago. They're still teaching the same fucking curriculum now that they did when we went to fire school. They're still teaching, hold my leg and go search. They're still teaching it takes 3 guys for a fucking 2.5-inch nozzle.
Yeah.
And
they're still teaching firefighters to search blacked out. Like if it's the worst case conditions, which all it does is tell them that that's normal, right?
Yeah.
We're sending
not teaching them.
firefighters. Yeah,
they're not teaching them how to operate in limited viz or get to that blackout. They're just going, you'll never see anything. So how are they learning anything?
Yeah,
you know what I mean? I don't
they
get that.
literally, they
Absolutely.
literally think that every fire is supposed to be pitch black, high heat, because that's what they're doing. It's hot in here. Keep moving. You can't see anything. It's dark. Well, that's great if you explain the why. But when you don't explain the why and you tell them that that's how they have to search, and when they get to that fire, they're fucked. Because they don't understand that, hey, this is a situation where I need to cool the environment and I need some ventilation right now.
Yeah.
And they're getting sent in.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And some of these guys too, and believe me, I'm not down in anyone that teaches fire academy whatsoever. I get it.
Not at
I
all.
understand and all that. But some of these guys, and it's like every department everywhere, they think that they're the God's gift to the fire service because they can yell at guys and they're called, commandant or admiral or whatever they're called, when people walk in. But when they sit there and they're teaching them stuff they're the epitome of, because that's the way we've always done it. They're the epitome of that. They're the poster child for that. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And it's like, go to the headmaster or go to the state or go whenever. It's just a pre-test academy. It's not even fire. It's nonsense. You're getting me worked up, Duffy.
Minimum standards breeds minimum results, period. That is a basic core knowledge to give people a foundation that they're supposed to build upon. Right? Like, I'm going to give you a little bit so you know what it is hopefully you know what it is that you're supposed to be doing, but this is not going to save your life. I've given you just enough to get your ass killed. Okay. It is now up to you and whatever department you work for to train you to get you up to par and continue to be a student of the craft.
Yes.
And that's the problem. And the problem is when we send them to these places, we have officers and maybe even chiefs in some cases, hell, even senior firemen that are just like, yeah, man, whatever. Like, it's really not that big of a deal. Why are you so into the job? And it's painted as like this negative thing if you give a shit. And you should give a shit. Most of us have families. So when you tell me to relax and stop giving a shit, what you're telling me essentially is to go fuck myself and you don't care about my family, right? Mm-hmm. The person that is like that, we should all be like, damn, this guy gives a shit so much. I know that no matter what happens, he's coming for me. He's going to give me every chance that I can to get home to my family. He's going to give every victim a chance to survive that environment. This is something we need to emulate. We need to capture whatever his motivation and driving force is. We have to harness that. And that is what we need to start teaching everybody else, because that's what's important. But we don't. Instead, we shun it like it's this negative thing. And then people silence because they're tired of fighting that same battle. And all you tell them after a while is like, if you don't give a shit, then their attitude becomes like, I don't give a shit either. Right. And then we just breed that into the next generation of firefighters that come in. And that's where our development scars happen. Right. So we have to be very, very careful, like how we say things and what we do, because it is going to have an impact for a long time to come.
Absolutely. Hey, Robbie, by the way, to answer your question I believe we're still on the first topic. To answer your question.
It's the first question. This is the first question. We're still on.
To answer your question.
It's going to be a while.
The searchable versus survivable. We call it searchable versus survivable because we can't call it tacticians versus mutts. It is what it is.
Fucking A. Listen, to perform at that level, you have to be
minimalists.
That's it.
Like Duff just said, you don't want that risk versus benefit guy coming to get you or your kids at 3 a.m.
No.
If you're in the shit and shit just went sour, and I think it was Chief Campbell, Don Campbell from Gainesville said it one time, and I wrote it down. He was like, dude, to perform at that level, you have to be a bit of a sociopath. Like, you want the craziest son of a bitch on that fire truck to bust through that window and come get you and your kids at 3 a.m.
100%.
You don't want the risk versus benefit guy, or
100%.
the searchable versus survivable guy. You know, you want, and that's true.
100%. I don't need a nice guy. I don't need a good neighbor. I have good neighbors. I don't need a nice guy. I need 6 assholes that know how to fight fire. That's what I want.
I love that. I love that. I love that. I love that.
So I think I cut Herb off when he was trying to make a point. So I'm sorry, brother. If
No. Hey, listen, bro. We're good. We're 51 minutes into it on the same first question, so we're good.
On the first question, yeah. Now you know why our classes take freaking 4 hours and everyone's drinking beer at the end of it.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to order breakfast, I think, by the time this thing's over.
Hey, the first time I ever met Duff was at a bar. I said, "Hey, what's your name?" "Hey, Sean Duffy, Robert Ramirez." "Oh, let's talk." 3 hours later, 14 beers later, he was still answering the first question. We're still getting to know each other. These guys
That's
talk.
right.
They're so passionate. It's fucking ridiculous.
That was a great night.
I appreciate it, man. That's good stuff, man. I follow some of the stuff that you guys do, and it's like God, these guys are reading my mind, or I'm falling into their cult. One or the other. I don't know what it is, but they both feel pretty good. Hey, so let me switch it a little bit. It's obviously on search. Question number 2, 52 minutes in. To stay onto that, we start talking about residential search, and we talk about VES, second floor, and all that kind of stuff. The commercial, when you start getting into the large areas, what's a couple things you guys look at, and how do you vary, or do you try to keep it the same? The part that on the big thing I got into a little bit of argument with a couple guys is we went over to the island that's by the department that I work for, and they have 40,000 square foot mansions over there. But after hurricane season, when you go into one of these mansions, even if you're going into the servant stuff that's 20,000 or 10,000 or whatever, you're going into these places and they're completely boarded up and locked. I told my crew, you got to treat this like a commercial building, because there's no way out. You push deep into this building, and you're going to find somebody staying there after a hurricane or right before it. This is bad. This is where the outside and the exterior and the OV. It's like the truck company needs to step it up, because they're going to make to use the words that we didn't really want. They're going to make it survivable when you push in there deep. And they're going to make it a little easier for the engine. So I think the outside guys on that have a major part on medium to bigger residentials that are boarded up. What's your guys' take on that into commercial stuff?
So I'll answer that for you real quick. First, I just want to touch on that. Survival is not a bad word to use. Obviously, that isn't our intent, right? Like, these people are most likely naked or in pajamas. We have bunker gear and air, right? So we do have to fix that environment and make it survivable atmosphere, or close to it, right? And that is the benefit of closing doors as well, is it gives you oxygen percentages of almost 19%, right? Which is, 21% is what? Normal air, right? So you look at that and you're like, hey, if I can get close to normal air, then we're doing good. That's the same thing of why when we search and we're isolated from the fire, we could be taking windows to ventilate that environment, right? We're allowed to do that. The Governor Island study proved that. So what I'm getting at is, I think the word survivable is a good thing if we're using it in a way that makes sense, like roof work to ventilate and get that fire and heat out, in commercial structures for searching, first thing I ask anybody is how quick can you search, let's say, a 1,500 square foot house with your staffing, right? If your staffing level, let's say, is 2, maybe 3, you could probably handle a 12 to 1,300 square foot house efficiently, right?
Mhm.
Anything outside that, you're going to want more search crews. Excuse me. So we have to take these commercial structures and learn how to split them into actual separate structures, if that makes sense. If I have like an apartment complex, every apartment in theory is a separate structure. So I should probably have more than one search crew. Same thing for commercials. You have to have more search crews. Anytime I hear a commercial job, my first thought is we need a second alarm right now. Whether it's burning or not, strike that second alarm, because I'm going to need a shit ton of manpower relatively quickly if this thing is off to the races, right? So, hey, I think utilizing your manpower effectively is the goal.
Yeah.
We tend to put a lot of people on rehab or medical sector or, whatever, worrying about shit that hasn't even happened yet, when we need to be worried and focused on what is occurring and using our manpower appropriately. So call the manpower quickly, get more than one search team, get more than one RIT team, like get those things in place and start searching that building. That is my take on it. And some people may not agree, but hey, reading what I've read through NIOSH studies and stuff, what is the most reason why guys get run over? They get lost, or they get trapped, or they get run over by a fire. Because in a commercial building, we'll take a Walmart, for example. If that thing is truly on fire, that's a big ass fucking fire, right? You're not going to knock that out with a hand line. But yet instinctively, we always want to go in there with one hand line and then get another hand line. And while all that's happening, searches are being made. So we have to keep in count of all of that. Like, hey, this is a large space. I have to cut it into divisions, and I have to have a separate search group for each division.
Absolutely. And then just to piggyback on that and what you said, Greg, not only am I a fan of sounding a second alarm right off the bat, like, oh, that's a working fire commercial job, or even a large house, like I treat them also as commercial, just large, something large. The truckies and the rescue and the outside OVM men, the truck work from the outside standpoint, needs to go hand in hand with the interior search on that. Not only the interior search, splitting the building, you got to throw a lot of hands in there to search that, because that ain't your run of the mill 1,500 square foot residential. That's basically at 1,500 square foot, or that that run of the mill 3,243. That's basically at my personal, once again, this personal, my personal comfort level as to like for one crew search. You start getting a little bit bigger than that, we need to start thinking about different search teams to get in there and splitting that type of search. And truck work, the OVM men or women need to do some serious work on that building, softening the building, making sure that everything is good to split the interior properly. And for those of you guys that out there that are like, oh, we don't have any truck companies. Yeah, you do. It's whatever is showing up as a third due engine, or as a fifth or sixth due engine on a second alarm, or your first, second due rescue, fourth due rescue, your fucking tanker, whatever the fuck. Someone fucking grab a York hook and do a 360 of the fucking building. There you go. Your deemed truck.
If they don't have a hose in their hand, they're a truck.
You're a truck. Oh my god, dude! It's like,
it's that simple.
Yeah.
We don't do truck work. Have you ever fucking held a Halligan? Oh my god, I deemed you a truckie.
Rob, is it time? Is it time we're getting into it?
Listen. I just want to let you guys know that I'm writing this down. That is 113 fucks from Pablo.
Yeah, I believe it.
113 fucks in 59 minutes. That's got to be some type of podcast record.
It is, because usually he's good for about 13, and then he realizes, like, oh man. So that's why we call him PG-13.
113, Pablo. 113. Right there in that one little comment, that was 14.
So
Bingo.
The one thing I can't stand about it kind of bothers me too, is the answer to a large area searches, instead of adding more teams up in the alarm and all that, more crews to go in, it's grab your search line.
I hate those.
That's the answer for everything that everyone says. Grab your search rope, and they can search an entire 100,000 square foot, commercial building with.
Here's what I want you to do. I want you to grab a search rope bag, toss it at somebody one day, and say, "Unravel this and tell me what every knot means, every ring means, and all that shit." And I promise you, they'll be like, "I don't fucking know," but that's our go-to answer when we're sending firefighters into a building.
Or better yet, when they go in and they got 150 feet pulled out with knots and rings everywhere. Go ahead and pan that back up so you can get yourself out.
Yeah, and what are you in? Are you in a auto body shop? Are you in a like a superstore? Are you like in a furniture place where this shit's gonna get hung up all over everything? Like, you've got to think about these things, and that's what I can't stand about the fire services. We give these really stupid canned answers with no definitions, like
because they've never done it.
Right, because they've never done it, and somebody said that this works, and NFPA says that we have to have it, so we're going to put it on here. It goes back to I promise you right now, if you go back to your firehouse and you tell somebody to get you a halogen, they will bring you a 3-piece freaking piece of junk and say that's a halogen. And you're like, no, that's a hooligan bar. It's pinned. It's not drop forged. That's wrong. Right? And they will argue with you. No, it's a halogen, because they don't fucking know, because all they know is this thing is supposed to force doors, and nobody's told them the difference, because the people that are supposed to be teaching them don't know the fucking difference. It's the same thing when we go to these fires and we start searching large houses or large buildings. Hey, I'm going to grab this search bag because that's what I was told I had to do. If you tell somebody, like, we just had a small, very, very small, wasn't even a big deal. It was like a toaster fire in an apartment building this morning. Charged the hallway and the apartment full of smoke. Point being is, our battalion chief's very aggressive. Do you think he had us grab our high-rise packs? No. Our ambulances have water cans. Our engines both have water cans. He's like, grab the water cans. Let's get up there and let's see what's fucking going on. But some people immediately be like, grab the high-rise pack. Let's do this because this is a high-rise and that's what we're supposed to do. Yeah. They're just grabbing shit because it's like second nature, and not in a good way. It's second nature because they've been indoctrinated that is the piece of equipment you bring for this incident. But once they bring it up there, they have zero idea what to fucking do with it. That's
that
the same
right
thing
there
with search rope.
That's the different levels of talent that I'm talking about. If technically speaking, you get a kid fresh out of the fire academy, and he's going to stretch a line. Let's say that everything, he's a kid that scored away. Everything is fine. Technically speaking, he's going to stretch a line to the front door, probably as fast as I'm going to stretch a line. Any of us are going to stretch a line. Maybe he might even beat us. This is when there's different levels of talent to this stuff. Yes, there's different levels of physical talent, and there's also different levels of understanding the job talent. And that's what I mean right there. Just understanding the job. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'll go back to the search rope thing. How many feet of rope do you have in your search bag? If the answer is like, I've got 100, okay, you've got 100 feet of search rope, and you're going into a Walmart. How far do you really think you're getting?
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? Like, what happens when you have to push further? You're going to call for another search rope?
Yeah.
There's certain things that happen that should be your indication immediately. Like, maybe I'm too far in with the manpower I have. I should have more help. Yeah. And we're not using that. We're not calling it because for some reason, if we make that call and we wind up not using it, one, we get reprimanded, and two, everybody laughs at us like, you idiot. Yeah. Hey, man, I don't really care. I'll send everybody home before I'm screaming on the radio that I need more help and I've got to wait 15 minutes.
Absolutely.
We do a horrible job setting our people up with false expectations of success, and not understanding the person you're going to be when that emergency happens. Those people that we're giving that fucking that wide area search bag to, and solving all their world's problems by handing them that one bag to go search a Walmart, the Costco, the Sam's Club, your big box building. They're fully encapsulated, heart rate of 150, stress hormone driven. You take away their sense of smell, you take away their sight, limited visibility. You put fucking oven mitts on them, and you have them counting rings or knots in an environment they've never been in.
Yeah,
150 feet into a big box building, and you give them a fucking high five until they figure it out, champ. You just jumped. Yeah. You just jumped off an ambulance.
Absolutely.
Yeah, come on, guys.
Absolutely. No, dude, you preach. Say it louder for the people in the back. Dude, very few people in this profession, if there's a class that I would like to see someone, whatever, come up with, like, it's the understanding that we do not take into consideration the human element of the job. We don't. Let's get dressed. Let's get dressed in the front yard. That's the clean cat concept. And I know this, whatever. The clean cat concept, getting dressed in the front yard, bro. Whoever out there is not realizing that there's a fucking difference between getting dressed in the firehouse floor. No, if there's not a difference between getting dressed on the firehouse floor to having a civilian in your face looking at you like, what's going on? Why aren't you not ready? As the fire is literally burning, you're out of your mind. That means that you've never been to an actual fire. You've never been to somewhere where someone's knocking on your fucking window as you're trying to give a size up off of an ambulance. It sucks.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to go let me take this one step further for you. And you know exactly what I mean. You put firefighters on an ambulance. I mean, God, they have to be a fucking fireman when they get hired, right? That's part of the qualification. They set their stuff up like if they were on an engine, and holy shit, people lose their minds. It's like, what are you doing? You're on an ambulance. Yeah. So I might go to a fire later and I need to get dressed quickly. No. Keep it in the cabinet. Get dressed when you're there. Cool. Here's the problem. When a citizen's house is on fire and you get dressed in the front yard and you put all that shit on and then the engine's not there yet and you don't do anything because the engine's not here, they're looking at you because you have now identified yourself as a firefighter and that you're there to do something and you're fucking doing nothing.
Absolutely.
And the excuse is, well, I showed up on an ambulance. I don't give a shit.
Yeah, they don't care.
You put on bunker gear and an air pack. That symbolizes that you are willing to do whatever you need to do to mitigate that situation to the best of your ability.
So here's one. True emergency. So Sean, when it's a true emergency, nobody gives a fuck what rig you're showing up on. And I'll go the complete other end of the route with EMS calls on engines. You show up on like if it's a bullshit ass call, you show up on a fire engine, they're gonna be like, "What are you doing here? We called the ambulance." Watch that motherfucker actually be a real call. Cardiac arrest, someone's not breathing, yada yada, all this, and you show up on a fire engine, they don't give. They're like, they want you to get off with every bag you got, and they want you to have everything ready to go. So it's the same thing from a fire engine standpoint, from an ALS. We work in South Florida. We all work in Florida, Central and South Florida. It's the same thing from a fire engine ALS standpoint. If you're on a rescue and you show up to a true emergency and it's a fire, nobody in that front yard is looking at you like an ambulance. They're looking at you as firefighters. Same thing from a fire engine standpoint.
I've had this.
Same exact thing from a fire engine standpoint.
I couldn't agree more because I've had this argument. But the way I looked at it was when you roll up on your medic truck, your rescue, and you jump off and you got to get dressed in the front and you're the first person there. And like we said, those might be our younger guys, our step-up officers on there. They're going to miss something. They're going to miss tools. They're going to miss air packs or whatever they're going to. And then the stress that you're putting on that guy to do the arrival, to go in to push. Do I go in that the engine's not here? Do I grab my water can? When am I going to get in trouble? This, they write the policy for the weakest person. So it straps the guys that want to drive forward.
Yeah.
And that's what
thing.
kills me.
Oh, damn. I'm going to take that. They write the policy for the weakest person.
Take it. You can have it.
When we do our culture class, we talk about this, and some people they don't necessarily agree because there is such thing as a good culture and a bad culture, and policies in those cultures could also have an impact. But when we say a strong policy will save more lives because it creates driving performance or a strong culture, saves more lives because it creates driving performance that no policy ever will. What we're saying is make whoever's showing up to that emergency an all hazards person, because that's really what we are. We're an all hazards department. I don't give a shit if you show up to my house on a tricycle ringing your goddamn bell. If you get off in bunker gear and you jump through a window and you save my kid, I'm happy. Right. So when we write those policies, we directly impact the ability of our service delivery. Right. I couldn't tell you, and I won't say anything, but I worked for a department and it drove me fucking crazy because the policy was that you were not allowed to make entry into a building unless an officer was on scene. Are you fucking high? So you're telling me with confirmed entrapment, I'm not going to make entry into a building because there's no captain on scene? Well, for whatever reason, this engine ain't fucking here and I still got a job to do. So guess what? I'm a firefighter. I've been entrusted with that job. The citizens expect me to do it, and I can fully intend to do it. Write me up, fire me, do whatever you think you need to do, but that's not going to stop me from doing my job. That mindset is not very strong with a lot of people because we scare them. Hey, if you do this, you're in trouble.
Yeah.
How much do you like working here? Well, you won't work here for long if you keep doing that. Because we can't physically say, hey man, maybe we're the problem. Maybe we need to train. Maybe we need to revamp our policies for what makes sense for what we want our personnel to do in today's fire environment with the staffing levels that we have. And if we're not doing that, then the powers to be who write those policies, they're the ones that are failing the citizens.
And creating that mindset too. That mindset's key too, man. I mean, that all starts inside the firehouse. I get it, but if you're strapped from your higher ups, or you have incident commanders for whatever reason, or even adjacent officers in other houses who are going to drag their feet or they're a little bit weak, that puts extra stress on you.
It does,
and it makes you take on more than you should be taking on for that point instead of focusing on the job at hand.
Well, I'll put it this way. Most of us in this profession today are either EMTs or paramedics. Okay, there is a standard that you have to meet. If you don't do something for a patient that you're supposed to do, that's negligence. Plain and simple. Oh my God, EMS chief will be up your ass so quick. You'll be explaining why you didn't do something in your report, but we go to a fire and we don't do something and it gets swept under the rug. They were probably dead before we got there. No big deal. Did you see how big that fire was? We make all these excuses as firemen of why we can be negligent. But guess what? The citizens are not buying that shit anymore. They're starting to sue people for not doing their job because people are being found during overhaul. They're being found during the inspection or the investigation, people are being missed because we're not putting the emphasis on, hey, this is just as important as your chest pain call that you ran today that you didn't do a 12 lead on. Sorry, do your fucking job. End of discussion.
Well, and they can research it too now, you know what I mean? Just like social media and all that. Be like, hey, you know what? Something happened. My neighbor had a fire. Let me check out what's going on here. And they go on and they start getting into and digging a little bit and go, man, these guys didn't do any of that.
It also bears down the point of when you get in the fire service. So my buddy Dan's listening from New York. He just chimed in. So understand, yes, there is paramedics that ride an ambulance that are firemen, Dan. He hit me up on the text message. He's like, what are you talking about, paramedics or firemen? So all of us.
Remind us.
So all of us.
Yeah, don't remind us.
Yeah, exactly. All of us work in Florida. And I always teach to the young guys that come in, because normally the younger guys go on the box. And I tell them, hey, listen, just because you're on the box does not mean that you're not a fireman. Absolutely. You need to be a better fireman, because depending how you arrive, you might be RIT, you might be engine, you might be truck. So you better be the baddest fucking fireman you possibly can be. And you better know everything, all the functions, and how to do it.
Absolutely.
And the problem is that culture is, oh, you're on the box, fuck it. Well, negative. And that's the culture in Florida per se. Oh, you're on the box. Okay, you're running medical calls. Well, think about it in the standpoint of, okay, you're on the box. Well, guess what? You might go to a fire tomorrow, you're assigned RIT. A month from now, you go to another fire, you're inside truck. Another fire, you're assisting fire tech. Well, that means you better be diverse in every fucking tactic that there is out there. And the problem is that we don't teach that. It's not being taught to the guy. It's you're an ambulance jockey.
Let me get in there real quick.
Go ahead, Pablo.
That starts, we talk about we were talking about it offshore or whatever, about ambulance crews and structure fires and stuff like that. That starts with the officer I'm not an officer. I'm a tailboard fireman. That starts with the officer of the station, setting the standards as to what is acceptable and how much is allowed to be given on any given day. How much do you allow? Not 1 inch. Not 1 inch. You don't allow someone to demean the rescue. You don't allow them to say this is bullshit or this is that, or we don't run fires. It's not. You don't allow that. You don't allow that. That doesn't mean you become a liar. That doesn't mean you become a liar. That just becomes you don't allow it. I always say to myself, I'm like, my name's Pablo Gener. I'm not a liar. I sure as fuck at 3 o'clock in the morning want to sleep. I do not want to be running a trophy. But at 3 o'clock in the morning, you're not going to see the difference between 3 o'clock in the afternoon and 3 o'clock in the morning for me, because I'm still going to run the call the same way.
Boom.
So, and
That's
from
professionalism.
Right, professionalism, right? So from a standpoint of ambulances operating on structure fires, the tone has to be set from the beginning of you are the truck company. The departments where you don't have dedicated truck companies, and we have ambulances. We do have dedicated truck companies. Every one of you guys that's out there listening, we do have dedicated truck companies. It's your ambulance. If you are sitting in-house with an engine company and there is a structure fire that goes down and you respond together, when you get there, the engine stretches, guess what you're doing? It's not sitting outside with your thumb up your ass, and I'm hoping to God you're not grabbing a stretcher. If there's a patient, there's a patient. I get it. I understand that. If there's no patient, you are the truck company. Or if there's a patient, second due gets it. Whatever. That's up to your department policy. But you are the truck company, because that engine company in the state of Florida, where I work anywhere, where you guys work, guess what? Is a little secret. They're actually squad companies. They carry fucking ladders on board. They carry extrication equipment on board. They carry saws on board. They carry hoses on board. You have a lot of fucking squad companies. So that means that when you get on scene as a first due ambulance, rescue, I don't like calling rescues. When you get on scene as a first due ambulance, as a first due medic unit, you automatically assume the function of a truck company, because as that engine is stretching, what do you need, Cap? What do you need, Lou? What do you need, Chief? You want me to take the roof? I got the ladders. You want me to soften up the building? I got all the tools back there. You want me to take utilities? No problem. Do 360? No problem. You are the truck company. But if you don't set that standard from literally the beginning, when you come in and be like, listen, we are the truck, and I don't want to hear no bullshit of like, oh, we don't do truck work. We absolutely do. Every single time that you don't touch a hose line, we're actually doing truck work. When you set that standard from the beginning, then that means that standard is going to be set, and you don't give an inch. I hate to say that. It sounds like a fucking communist. I'm Cuban. I promise I'm not fucking communist. But you don't give an inch, man, because as soon as you give an inch, like, oh, this is bullshit. No, this is not bullshit. This is your job. And I always use as analogies from going back to like the old California 49er days. We are professional shit swifters, you know. You remember back in the 49er days, you know, you go a little bit of history, right? You go back and they're looking for gold through a bunch of fucking dirt. They're going like this, looking for gold and looking for gold. Man, I can't imagine going days at a time fucking going like this. But they're looking for a piece of gold to feed their fucking family. So I'm guaranteeing you, back in those days, at some point or another, there was one of those guys that's like this, like, oh, this is fucking bullshit. I don't want to fucking do this. This is garbage. Looking over to the left or to the right of the guy, looking like, man, what are you gonna do tonight? I can't wait to go home. What is he missing? He's missing that little piece of gold. But there's one of those little 49ers that's sitting on that line going like this, and he's just focusing, and he's focusing, and he's focusing. Oh, piece of gold. Boom, feed my family. Our piece of gold is that fucking structure fire, is that cardiac arrest, is all of those calls that they pay us for. When we're swifting through those the BS calls, basic service, not bullshit. By the way, I got that from Bill McCann from Liberty City. Love the boys on there. I love the BS calls. Basic service. Basic service, boys. Billy, if you're watching, that's awesome, bro. But yeah, that's our job, man. That's our job, to swift through those BS calls, and boom, oh, structure fire, and be ready for that structure fire, man. And I think that we just do a horrible job. And as leaders, once again, I'm not an officer, but I think we do a horrible job as leaders, is not setting the expectations of what you expect from that rescue company or from that ambulance company from the beginning of the shift. And I'm also a fan of not yearly evaluations or this and that. Like every quarter or so, not even half a year, every quarter or so, still sit down with your crew and be like, these are my expectations, guys. This is how's it going? How's everybody doing? Like, is there anything that I do that you don't like? But the expectations are still going to be set every quarter. That way nobody forgets.
Expectations drive performance, 100%.
Yes, brother. Yes.
Well, and like you said too, the medic truck ride. So some departments will run 2 and 2, so you may have a little bit of an issue. But so you take that, you take one of your senior guys that are on the engine or whatever, and they become an OV, and then you force multiply your fire attack with the medics. You know what I mean? So now you're getting the doors open, you're getting the hose line in place, and then you're going to make what you have to do. You're going to have, and a lot of those guys that run 2 and 2, they search off the line.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? So they go in. Now, is it effective? 100% effective? Probably not. But that's what they have, so they got to be good at it. They have to push and figure that out. So I dig.
Is anything we do 100% effective? That's another thing that for whatever reason we come back. We come back from fire standards, and God, I'm really not hating on my fire standard instructors and boys, but for whatever reason, we think that everything needs to be 100% effective. For fuck's sake, I've never ran a fire when I come back to the station, and I'm like, man, that went fucking great. There's always something.
I want every fire back. Every fire I want back. Every single fire. I want to go to the second. I want a second lick at it. A second lick at it.
Well, you ride a Quint, dude.
Or another. Every fire I've gone to.
I do 5 things. 5 things.
Quints always want their fire back.
I do.
Ruin the fire service, bro. Just throwing that out there right now.
Every podcast, I say the same fucking Quint thing, and Pablo's heard it before.
I love
Modern day fire apparatus piece. Some days I identify as an engine, other days I identify as a truck. Most of the time I operate as an ambulance. All right,
because of you now on the writing assignment board, I identify as a truck today. Whenever I'm riding the old meat wagon.
100%.
Meat wagon. That's a mini heavy, bro. Come on.
Yeah.
And you know what? It works. It works because your departments embrace that. Some departments haven't. In South Florida, where we have a paramedic-centric, EMS-centric transport culture, Central Florida as well. Our members, our firemen, our manpower, our force multiplier, you guys keep using that. It comes off of that box. Mm-hmm. It really does. We're not showing up there with 5-6 guys like New York City or these big urban fire departments where, you can split your truck. 2 guys to go to the roof, 2 guys go to the outside, and the chauffeur stays at the truck, or somebody goes to take the door. They're picking up 3 assignments or 3 functional groups with 1 fire truck. We don't have that down here.
Well,
so we're go ahead, Greg.
I'm sorry. Even in California, I mean, they run 4 on everything, and their truck companies, their terminology is money. They're like, hey, we're all out, or we're all in, or we're 2 and 2, so they can split and back their own guys up, and that 1 truck doing that is a game changer.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So going back to what you were saying too, Pablo, though, just to jump in there, when you were saying our officers need to do a better job and all that, I'll be the first one to put my hand up as guilty as charged. The quarterly thing, that's a good thing. I wrote that down. Expectations for your crew again. Hey man, this is what we're doing. I like that. That's a good deal. I think my crew kind of knows. I may not do the overall expectation. This is what I want, but when we trickle in, I think they're good enough to basically say, hey, is this cool to do it this way? I'm more of task driven. Like, so, if we go on the rope call, you're my anchor team. Mm-hmm. This is what I want to do. They're going to anchor, and they know that we're all going to be up to the same standard. We go on fire, same thing. Hey, you guys are outside truck. You guys are inside truck. You got the search. They know what's going on. And I think it's because we already know the why. We just got to get in and do the function. And I think that's why. But I agree with you too. And like I said, I'll raise my hand first too, that expectation wise and all that, I do it with newer guys here and there just because I feel that the unit I'm on leaned on a little bit more by our battalions. But when I have my steady crew there, I feel like like you said, I don't need to say anything for the most part. Mm-hmm. So to tell them their day, their day-to-day or month-to-month expectations, I'd probably come up short on that.
Right.
You know what I want to bring up real quick? I'm going to circle back because I wrote it down. It's gonna bother me if I don't get it off my chest. We don't talk shit about it for a second. It really is. It really is. And I don't know if it was Sean or Pablo that mentioned it earlier, and it struck a nerve with me. If you run a shitty medical call that went bad, you have the white wave of chief officers, bureau, training, EMS, emails, your battalion. If you're a chief or if you're not a captain, your captain come down on you about how the report was written, how the call was run, what policy was not followed for a stranger, for a fucking stranger on a policy.
Right.
But your fireground actions or lack thereof, or ill preparedness or lack of training falls solely on the company officer to handle. And if you don't handle it as a company officer, you'll never get the white wave because they just don't give a fuck.
You're right.
And that is every department fucking USA.
You know why?
And that bothers me.
No, and I wanted to address that because Sean, you brought that point up, and I wanted to address that, and that's something. And I'm throwing this out there for discussion on amongst the four of you guys. The problem is that there's no minimum standards for EMS. Like when you go to medic school, doctor school, nursing school, there's literally no minimum standards. Like you know, like this is what the patient is presenting. This is what you're gonna do. You know, I from the rope rescue world, for example, you know, especially I'll speak to you from the rope rescue world. Yes, there's 100 different things that we could do for different systems, this and that. I get it, but we'll break it down to like the minimalist thing that we could break it down very layman's term. A 3-to-1 system in New York City is the 3-to-1 system in Key West. Like there's things that there's no minimum standards for, if that makes any sense. So EMS being one of them. There's minimum standards for fire, and that's why we have so much discrepancy, because you could burn a house down, or you could not search, you could do whatever, and you could fall back on the umbrella of safety. You fall back on that huge umbrella that says, I wasn't comfortable with doing that because I had low visibility, or I don't know, I wasn't able to throw the ladder because I didn't have 2 people. I only had 1 person to throw the ladder. You know, and because there is a minimum standard. The minimum standard is the 24-foot extension is a 2-person throw. So when you have minimum stamping and that 1 person can't throw it, you can't fucking come up to that guy and be like, what the fuck, buddy? You can't, because they're going to be like, oh, I didn't have my partner. And you guess what? As a chief officer, you got to be like, yeah, I can't say anything because there's a minimum standard.
Well, like Sean said too, take that minimum, or take that standard, throw in a ladder, and then there's a little bit smoky and you hear dogs barking and it's dark outside. Yeah. I mean, they probably shouldn't even go to that call. You know what I mean? They should wait outside.
Yeah. Well, I tell everybody, listen, when's the last time you threw a ladder? And Pablo knows, because, you know, I was blessed to work with Pablo for a little over a year. We were at the same house together, which was very interesting. The 2 of us every day, every morning. I still fucking hate your face, by the way. Long story short, that was one of the things we hit hard on. And everybody was like, why are you guys always throwing ladders? Well, when's the last time you threw one? Because I don't know if you know this, but victims get rescued from ladders. And you're not going to always have a truck company. And guess what? Engines have ladders. And if you're not pulling them out and the halyard looks like shit and the ladder's dirty and you haven't taken care of it, then that shows me that your tactical priorities are not for the citizens or the victims trapped by fire. Because if they were, the ladder would be clean, you'd be exercising it, you'd be making sure that there is a way that you throw that where you don't even have to look. Pablo and I would be out back and we'd be talking to each other, throwing these things in the middle of the concrete. People are like, when are you going to ever throw that in an open parking lot? That's not the fucking point. The point is,
I can do it.
The point is that I can shoulder this thing, throw it wherever I want to, raise that thing while looking at him and having a full conversation and having full control of my ladder. And if you can't do that, you're not proficient in it. And you probably shouldn't be operating a ladder. What tends to happen, and you see it on YouTube videos all the time, and you know the people that don't throw ladders, because they'll have one and they'll drop it and then they'll look confused. And then they'll go to raise it and it either ends terribly, or they just drop it and leave it where it is and walk off and do something else. Right? Mm-hmm. That is terrible. What kind of message are we sending to people that a firefighter can't even raise a goddamn ladder?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like, if you can't lift 75 pounds by yourself, there's a problem. There's a huge problem.
Absolutely. You want to become advanced. You want to do this job advanced as fuck. Master the basics. It is what it is. You look really good when you master the basics.
Well, and it we could even take it a step further. And I know me and Greg have had numerous beers and have talked about this for plenty of times. The problem is that we are pussifying the fire service.
All day. All day.
Like every single thing we do in the fire service is you got to be safe. You got to do this. You got to do this. All these fucking steps before you do your task to be safe. Well, guess what? It's not a fucking safe job. And that is the reality of it. So the fact that we try to over safety every fucking thing we do in the fire service is a trickle down effect.
Yeah.
Guys are forgetting how to do the basics because
Absolutely.
oh well, I can't throw a ladder unless I have my gloves, my helmet, and all this shit. I can't do this if I don't have this protective PPE. Well, guess what? It's not a perfect situation. If it was a perfect situation, we wouldn't have got the call and we wouldn't be there.
Yeah. And you know who you could tell who doesn't go to fires? The people on social media that are pounding away on those keyboards. Where's your SCBA? Where's this?
Dude,
and they're actively doing something beneficial. And you're like, clearly, dude, because that person is going to throw that ladder, have that victim down, and hand it over to the ambulance before you even get on air. And you're the one talking shit right now? Seriously?
We get our fair share of those guys on all the training that like we do, all the disciplines. It's funny that we laugh about it and send them a T-shirt or a sticker or something, and whatever. They love it.
Yeah.
But absolutely.
Going back to what you said too, Pablo, is in the little RIT program that we push and everything. That's exactly what we talk about. We talk about, hey man, there's no minimum standards in RIT. Like that's your guy. He was pushing deep. And he got hemmed up for whatever reason, and minimum standards is not going to get it.
Absolutely.
So, you
need
dig
hard
deep,
charging.
discover some courage, and get yourself in there and get your guy out. And hopefully, we have technique and training and blah blah blah, all that. But that's what it comes down to, and mindset, like you said.
Absolutely, mastering the basics, man. We go back to like the throwing of the ladders, shit, like that, and. That's something that whenever I talk about ladders, I love ladders. I love them. Like I have a little love affair with these things. That's something that's weird to me. Like all of a sudden, I mean, talk about selling bullshit and buying it. Like I'm gonna sell you bullshit, and I'm hoping that you buy it, and for whatever reason, you actually do buy it. Like ladders will literally stay on a fire engine or a truck for fucking months at a time. I mean, months. They're dirty, they're nasty, they're filthy, yada yada. You haven't thrown them in years, and all of a sudden you're gonna tell me one day you're just gonna randomly wake up around 1:15 in the morning or so, and you're gonna go to a fucking fire, and you're gonna throw this fucking ladder to a window. You're gonna climb this ladder in full gear, take the window properly, go inside, do a search, find someone, drag them out, get them to the ladder, and then hopefully put them over the window so your partner could grab them because they're actually unconscious. They're not a conscious victim. And you're going to be like, hey, sir, one step, and bring them down without fucking falling. We believe that, bro. We believe that shit. I'm like, have you guys ever, like, that's why, like, I want to throw ladders as much as I can because, and when we talk about the mentality of understanding that you could train your brain. Like the ladders, to me, the ladder, like Sean said, the ladder weighs 75 pounds. My Alkalite, an Alkalite 24-foot extension weighs 75 pounds, 2 p.m. on a Sunday, and it weighs 75 pounds, 2 a.m. on a Thursday. And the more that I throw it, the more that I'm just used to it and used to it and used to it and used to it. And by the time that I throw it, my body and my mind doesn't know whether I'm throwing it to an empty parking lot, through an empty building, or to a building that's on fire. And obviously, the progression goes. As you go, you get more experience. You get into the building. You get it. Hey, man, I'll throw it here. I'll throw it here next time. I'll throw it here next time. All right. That comes with experience. I understand that. I'm not stupid. But as far as like just physically getting a hold of a damn thing and throwing it over and over again to the point that someone looks at you like, man, you're a pretty damn good fireman. No, I threw a ladder. Like I'm not a good. I mean, I'm not a good fireman.
Yeah.
I just throw a ladder. It's because like you just do it over and over.
Yeah.
Same thing as getting in gear and practicing RIT and practicing search and stretching hand lines and stuff like that. And it's like I don't understand why people don't put those reps in. And I'm huge on putting reps in and putting reps in and putting reps in. Now, having said that, I think that there's a misconception, and I'll speak for myself. I won't speak for any of you guys out there. I speak for myself. There's a misconception about people like me, where like I've heard like, bro, you train every day. No, dog. If it's Super Bowl Sunday, I'm gonna watch the fucking Super Bowl. Like I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. Like I treat my job as a job in the sense that like if it's Monday through Friday, 8 o'clock in the morning to 5 p.m. in the afternoon, I work. I work. I'll put in reps at night. I'll put works in the morning, in the afternoon. But I work, on hours. There are days that I come in that I don't put reps in like that particular day. But the analogy goes into going to the gym, right? I go to the gym mostly every day, but there are days off from the gym. I don't go to the gym 7 days a week, but the consistency over time means that I pick up heavy shit and I put it down more than I don't pick up heavy shit and put it down, which leads to being healthier and stronger and being able to understand the gym better. So I'm not trying to say that you every single day clock in and be like, oh, well, we're physically doing something today. But every single day you could do something. You could look at a YouTube video. The days off let's say the days off that you're not throwing a ladder, the days off that you're not stretching a line. It's your birthday or whatever, or 4th of July, Independence Day. Your family's coming over around 2 o'clock in the afternoon because they want to do a barbecue with you at the station. In the morning, can you do a quick little table talk? Hey guys, what do you think about this? Can you look at this little quick line of duty injury that we could talk about? It doesn't have to be crazy. You don't have to throw ladders. If you have 120 shifts of the year, you don't have to throw ladders 120 shifts of the year. There's so many fucking things that bring out the rope bag and do a quick little a quick little stabilization knot. That literally takes all of about 3 fucking minutes. Literally do a stabilization knot. You got some good training in for the day. You put your hands on something. It took 3 minutes. You went inside. You got better for the day. You know what I mean?
I'm going to add to that. I'm going to add to that for a second because this is something that fucking pisses me off. And people are going to disagree with me. That's perfectly okay. Just hear me out. We focus so much on people's ability to clean a toilet or take out the garbage or do all this other shit, that we're losing the ability to focus on what really fucking matters. Because somehow in our minds, we have thought that the way you scrub a toilet or how many times throughout the day you make fucking coffee is going to translate onto the fire ground that you're a good fireman. And that's just not fucking true. We should be spending more time showing people where shit's out on the rig, how to use that tool, explaining them their jobs, why it is they're going to be doing the things they're going to be doing, and drilling. Okay?
Absolutely.
The idea that a good probationary firefighter or a good firefighter comes in and they make coffee, they take out the garbage, and they fold laundry and do all those other things, I get it. You gotta pull your weight some.
You pick up the slack, right? You pick up the slack.
You pick up the slack. But you know what? If you see something needs to be done, you just fucking do it. That's common fucking sense.
Absolutely.
Okay? But to think that somebody's probationary period as a fireman is solely dictated on their ability to clean a firehouse or how well they wash a rig, that's just fucking ridiculous.
It's asinine. Okay? No, it's asinine.
It's crazy because it's scrubbing a toilet never saved anyone's damn life. And to think that we're going to show up and tell somebody, hey, man, you know what? You clean the station like nobody else has cleaned the station. You're probably going to save my life when shit hits the fan. That's not realistic.
Absolutely.
It really isn't.
Dude, that's funny, but it's so true. And for whatever reason, we harp on like, you better know where everything is on the rig. I understand that. No, I understand. You ain't fucking open the door 75 times on a fire scene. You better not do that. You better know what everything is on the rig. I'm gonna let you in on a little secret, at least in my firehouse anyway. Where the hell, unless it was moved by one of the shifts, and then we obviously talk amongst each other, where the Halligan is today, the Halligan is gonna be tomorrow, and the Halligan is probably gonna be there 4 months from now. If 8 shifts in, we're still working on, you better know where everything is on the rig, we probably need to work on a little bit something different. I want you to know where everything is on the rig by the second shift. By that night, like you better know where everything is on the rig. That's what you're there for. By the 10 shifts in, we're gonna start working on like, hey, what is that tool capable of? By a month in, motherfucker, I want you to tell me who manufactured that fucking thing.
Yeah.
Yep.
Mechanical advantage of the Halligan's a good place to start. People
Yeah.
have this Halligan, and we tell them before stores they have zero idea how to use it.
But they can tell you where it's
don't
at.
even know.
It's on the high side. Yeah, motherfucker. It was on the high side.
Well, and here's the thing.
They're a Home Depot employee. They're a Home Depot employee. They can tell you where it is, but they can't build it for you.
I don't want to paint a bad picture about station chores. Like, don't get me wrong. But imagine what our fire service would be like if we worked together and we got that shit done together, because it's more time to get out on the apron or wherever we happen to be and train on shit that actually makes a difference in someone's life. Okay. Yeah. Again, cool. You come to my firehouse and it's messy and you write a letter to my fire chief. I came by the firehouse today. It was messy. I don't really care what you think. All right. What are you going to write to my fire chief when I show up to your emergency and I can't fucking throw a ladder? I can't stretch a line. I can't do a 360. I can't really do any of the basic fundamentals that I'm supposed to be able to do because I spent so much of my time during the day answering emails, doing target solutions, and cleaning the station.
No, you're clear because it was unsafe.
Right.
You know what I mean?
So I think that kind of stems into the whole mentorship side of things is we're our own worst enemy with that shit. We really are. Like, we'll sit there and we'll judge people all day long, but we won't reach our hand out and say, let me help you. Right. Yeah. And we're so quick to sit at the table. Like, I think about this for a second. When you're sitting at the table or on the apparatus of the pumper or wherever you're at, and someone's talking shit about another firefighter, you better believe as soon as you leave, they're probably talking shit about you too. Yeah. And that's where we're failing is if we could just say, hey man, we're better together. Everybody's got strengths. Everybody's got weaknesses, but our strengths are once a weakness. We just figured this out that through sets and reps, we wanted to do better and we were going to do better. That's how we got to where we are. I'm going to show you right now. I'm going to share my failures with you. And then I'm going to teach you how to be successful because that matters. That makes everything else better, not only just for that person on your crew, but what if they're doing an exchange of time or they're on overtime or whatever? That is an asset to the next crew. And
anybody can be a coach or an instructor.
Yeah.
Anybody.
And, it's
anybody.
We have people come into the fire service, believe it or not, dude, no life experience. Okay. And that's not their fault. That this might be their first real job ever. That's not our fault, but it is our problem, right? We have to take that person and show them the way. We can't just look at them and then chastise them when they mess up because they don't know any better. They're trying. Imagine the stress they have, right? Yeah. Coming in for the first day, trying to figure things out, how to navigate through the fire service, and then we're telling them like, "Hey, don't worry about that, just clean." And then they go to a fire and they ask you, "Hey, how did I do on that?" "Oh, we'll talk about it later." And then you make fun of them because they absolutely sucked.
Yeah.
Well, you didn't do anything to make it better.
That's an advanced skill. We'll talk about that later. That's an advanced skill. But that's a basic skill. That's a basic skill that you need to learn, right?
Like I look at it this way: if somebody on my engine company or my rescue company, if they fuck up, I fucked up. Period. Yeah. End of discussion. Right? We got to own it. We own it together, and we'll get over it, and we'll do it better the next time. But we're gonna train on it together because we made that mistake together, right?
Yeah.
Well, it's funny. It's funny you say that too. I want to add to that, Rob. Then you can grab your question. We took on a couple new personnel in our department, and they came on with like maybe a couple weeks training for whatever reason. There was numerous reasons. We hired onesies, twosies, here's and there, and some of us had to sit back and say, hey man, you need to give this person a little bit of a break. Like you said, the stress value's up. They don't know anything. It's legit that they know. The last thing they know was the person that was in fire school that was showing them, a year and a half ago. So they truly don't know anything. So we had to kind of take them under our wing a little bit. And I had one of them in my station, and all in all, I think we had 2 or 3 of them. I want to say all 3 of them absolutely killed it, just because they were so focused and and I think that nerve-wracked focus was kind of working. So, and like you said, I looked at it and I took the one in my station and it was like, well, if he fails, my crew didn't fail. I did. Mostly my crew was training these personnel, or this guy, you know what I mean? He was training them, but I was kind of like, getting a lot of feedback. I'd go out and help out, do whatever I could, but it was solely in my lap that if he failed or something went wrong, then it was on me, even though my crew was doing all in all, and I would have took the heat. But that's when we go back to getting that buy-in, and the crew is like, yeah, we're in on it. So it was stress. But we should do that with everybody.
Yeah, that's mentorship.
Yeah, absolutely.
100%. Hey, to touch up on real quick on the two things you guys talked about earlier, and I'm writing notes because you guys are killing on every front. You're talking about a lot of cool shit, and the people watching out there tonight are in for a huge treat because I got 3 pages of notes. You're just talking to these guys. A lot of stuff that we talked about earlier. Sean talking about the janitor. My kid doesn't need a janitor at 3 a.m. He needs a fucking fireman. All right, so you keep these guys at the firehouse cleaning toilets all day long, and you don't invest on any type of skill set, acquisition, or building of that member, building of that fireman. You failed that member if you're only concerned as how clean your shitters are. At 3 a.m, I don't need a janitor, I need a fireman. That's the reason we dialed 911. As far as what you were talking about earlier, Pablo, about throwing the ladders, and not knowing the difference whether it's 2 p.m. or 1:30 in the morning. It all goes back to, and I like to revert back to every time we do any kind of teaching, I like to revert back to the human aspect of it and the emotional environment that we operate in at 3 a.m. when you got flame blowing out of 2 windows, you have that mom or parent in the front yard, you have that confirmed rescue that is a targeted search. Last week we talked with Tom Johnson out of Colorado, the guy from Fit to Fight Fire, and he had that grab a couple weeks ago. He talked about they got there, high speed environment, high energy environment, a lot of moving parts, people jumping out of windows, people passing babies down from a 3rd floor multifamily walk up. And he knew he was going to go do a VES. The last thing you want on your mind on that day for the people listening is to think about, is my gear on right? Is my mask on right? Did I check my air pack in the morning? Am I uncomfortable in this gear? Mm-hmm. How do I get this ladder out of the truck? When's the last time I threw this ladder? Have I exercised this ladder? Where's the center point? Where's the balance point? Am I throwing this, fly section in, fly section out? All those things, masking up, all those things should be second nature. So you can focus on the task at hand. So you can focus on that low frequency Super Bowl event where now you're making the throw to go through the window to do the targeted search or VES beyond the door to that confirmed victim in that high energy environment. So if you're focusing on that low frequency task and not the fact that you're uncomfortable in your gear, you're hot in your gear, your mask is not getting itself on the way you expected it to, that ladder that you're getting off the truck hasn't been exercised in weeks and now you can't get the halyard to untie, you haven't gotten your fire gloves on, you haven't worked or trained with your fire gloves because every time you did fucking ladders or anything else, you were using extrication gloves. Mm-hmm. So now you're completely lost all dexterity and you're not functioning anymore. Dude, all those things matter and they shave seconds off and seconds become minutes and minutes saves lives. And on the human aspect, it creates a huge physiological change in your mind. For somebody like Pablo, somebody like Sean, guys like the 1%ers that are on here that are training every day in gear, that are throwing ladders as much as possible, you're creating positive neural pathways from point A to point B. I'm not going to get into the prefrontal cortex and none of that, but you're creating positive, open, quick acting, non-thinking, reflective fucking pathways that are telling you, grab the ladder, throw the mask on, put it at the window, and before you know it, you're at the step of the window and you're ready to make entry. And none of the other steps before that mattered or required prefrontal cortex thinking. So it caused very little energy, very little exertion. You're on auto throttle like the generator, and you're not wasting too much fuel because you put in the time and the reps before 1:15 in the morning. And for all these fucking dreamers that go to work every 3rd day, and it's a costume party for 25 years, and their wives and their fucking kids think that their daddy and their husband the fireman, and they go home every 3rd day and wear their costume to their career day. All right, they go to their kids' elementary school career day, and they haven't put any effort into the job because they show up to work thinking about their stocks, thinking about the recliner, thinking about the landscaping business, the pool business. Dude, I get it. You got to put food on the table, but this is your job. This is your vocation. All right?
Preach
Go
on,
sell ice
brother.
cream. Go sell fucking ice cream. That's not what we're here. It's about them, not you. Whew, I
Preach
felt like
on.
Pablo there. Where's my water? Where's my
No,
water?
dude, bro, you sounded
I don't got water. I don't got water.
I see that
Rob
steam coming
Macho
out.
Pablo Ramirez right there, dude.
That's it. That was good.
Or I had to fire off on
Hey,
my
take me off the
helmet.
screen, Herb. I gotta go.
Yes.
Hey, I got a little chubby right there, man. Jeez.
Dude, yeah, I just sat back. I'm like, fuck. I felt like you were screaming at me.
No, dude, that was so beautiful.
Hey, that was Sean and Pablo had a child right there. That was it. Dude. That was on fire.
I yelled at you while I fucking gave you data.
Brother, I'll tell you what, man. You know what the greatest thing about that entire conversation was? We go back to mentors and what is a mentor? What is an instructor? Anybody could be an instructor, but what you just did there, Rob, what you did earlier, Greg, what you guys all do on a daily basis, you guys are mentors because for whatever, like when we talk about what's the difference, anybody could be an instructor. Anybody could go to a fire academy and fucking be like, I want to teach. Anybody could do, just literally go for a paycheck. But having someone do something because they legitimately are passionate about something and do it the right way, man, like that is literally what a mentor is. And for whatever reason, we like want to make fun of people for wanting to look up to other people. Like I knew of you guys before you guys knew that I knew of you guys. It's okay for me to look and be like, man, dude, I like the way that Cap Ramirez, like he carries himself, man. I like the way that he presents himself. I like the way that he goes about the job, stuff like that. Like you could be a mentor to someone without even knowing you're a mentor. Like by just going about the job the right way, and people will follow. You don't have to go out of your way to be a quote unquote mentor. People will follow just by you doing the right thing. And I think what you did there, what you said there, like those are things that people will follow. Now here's the thing about being a mentor, though. You can't be caught in a lie. Because let's just say, for argument's sake, like I tell you about, I said earlier about like, 2 o'clock in the morning to 2 p.m. You won't know the difference in a call for me. Like I said, my name's Pablo Gener. I'm not a liar. At 2 o'clock in the morning, I want to be asleep. I like my sleep. But at 2 o'clock in the morning, when the toe pain comes in, you're not going to know the difference between 2 p.m. and 2 a.m. because I'm going to run the call same way cordial. Now, the day that I get up out of bed, and I walk across that bunk room and I say, fuck this goddamn shit, blah, 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 I become a liar. And I am no longer a mentor because I literally disappointed whoever is looking up to me, because if someone's going to be looking up to the way that you do things. And mentorship goes a long way as long as you don't become a liar.
Yeah, so let me ask the question. Go ahead. I have the question for you, and I'm going to set you up. So we talk a lot about the importance of mentoring and coaching. All right, in today's fire service, and I've heard you talk about it before, Sean. What's the importance and the difference between mentoring someone and coaching someone? And go.
Perfect. So you see this slide here. This is in our mentoring and leadership program. All of those things fall under mentoring. And this is just my opinion, right? So again, some people might disagree, and that's okay. I personally believe that like when you mentor somebody, that is passing on knowledge, right? That is personal and professional development. Coaching is more like for skills, right? Mm-hmm. It's task oriented. You're really focused on boosting performance. Mm-hmm. They're both essential. I don't want to say that one's better than the other, but we have to understand what it is that we're doing. When we become mentors in the fire service, we don't want to just like talk about it. We want to be about it, right? We don't want to just tell somebody why this job's great. We want to show them why it is, right? So that goes back to my personal opinion of time on. Just because you have 15, 20, 30 years on whatever does not mean that you're going to be a good mentor, because it is very possible that you could be repeating your academy year 15, 20, 30 years in a row. Congratulations, you're a lifelong rookie. Don't care. Okay. Mentorship is about sharing your successes as well as your failures, looking at somebody and be able to say, hey, listen, I know how you feel. I've been there before, and this is what I found out. We're going to get through this. We're going to get through it together, right? And humbleness, right? You got to be able to humble yourself and realize you don't fucking know everything. That person that's looking to you for guidance and the one that you're mentoring is probably going to teach you something. You have to be open-minded and accept that and realize that things are changing. People come from different backgrounds. People have various different experiences. What it's really about is this is what our objective is. Let's come together on this common ground. We're going to work for the end result. And we're going to figure out what works and what doesn't. And along the way, I'm going to tell you a couple of things that have worked for me. Use them, see if they work for you. And it's this constant thing. So there's a slide that I have in here that came from Zachary, Louise Zachary, Lewis Zachary. She had this book called Creating a Culture of Mentorship. And this is what she explains. Pretty much one's boosting performance, one's personal and professional development, right? And if we go to the next slide that we have in our class, what it really boils down to is it's got two distinct things. I've played not professional, but sports all of my life, and I've had a coach, right? When that coach wants me to do something, I drill and I drill and I drill, and it's pretty much on me, right? He tells me, this is where you want to be, this is what you have to do, and then I've got to do the groundwork. Where when we have a mentor, that person's right beside you. They're doing the same thing you're doing. Maybe I tell somebody, hey, you have to work out in your gear, man. You really have to get used to all of this weight and this heat and all of these things so that it just becomes, part of the equation and you don't even think about it. I can't tell somebody that if I'm not doing it, I'm sitting there in basketball shorts and flip-flops yelling at them because they're not quick enough or they're exhausted, right? So to me, that's where that mentorship comes in. You're in gear, I'm in gear. We're going to be right beside each other doing the same exact thing, working through the same exact thing, because I'm going to show you that I've been where you are, and then I'm willing to be there again, and we're going to get through it. And through that whole thing, I'm going to grow, and you're going to grow. And that makes us stronger together. In that mentorship is truly where I believe that unit cohesion takes place. And when we talk about unit cohesion, a lot of people are like, hey, you want doors forced? You want line stretch? You want searches made? These are the go-to guys. So if you're going to be the go-to guy, you better make damn sure you're worth being, brought up, you're worth going to. And that only happens by that constant repetition, bringing people with you and saying, hey, man, I'm not afraid to fail in front of you, because you know what? That's life. I'm not perfect. You're not perfect. We're going to make mistakes, but it's how we rebound from that mistake that really defines what happens next. And that's just my take on it, but that's what I have found resonates well with people when you can relate to them and you can bring them in and say, hey, I'm invested in you.
Yeah.
Okay. My investment's here. And we have to understand that mentorship, man, we can do everything right when we're at the firehouse. But it's really what happens outside the firehouse that matters too, right? You don't want to be a mentor only when you're on duty. You should be approachable at all times, and people should be able to call you and say, hey, I have an issue. Hey, I have a question. And that's fine.
Yeah.
That's really the whole thing. Ask about their day. Ask about them. Like, hey, how are you? Do you have a wife? Do you have kids? Like, what is your life like? Because we don't really know these people, right? At first, we have to get to know them. And that's half the battle, knowing where their background comes, because people learn in different ways, right? How I learn may not be how Pablo learns, and so on, right? So if I say to you, hey, this is the way you have to do it, and this is the only way, it might not be of a benefit to you. A true mentor will realize, like, okay, listen, obviously this isn't working for you. Based off of what I know about you, I might have to do this instead. And I'm going to do whatever it takes to get you through this. Where I've found with coaches in my life anyway, it's more of like, you're going to drill until you puke. I don't really give a shit. And there's that disconnect there of personal feelings. And I always put it this way. You have people on a sports team that are really good, that play a lot. and you have the people that are benched, and the people that are benched, all they want is to play that game. Those people are constantly trying to improve and do those things for that one shot. Whereas when it's mentoring, in my opinion, again, is, hey man, I see you really want to do this. I think you have potential. I'm going to give you this shot. Even if it costs us the game, I don't care, because I want you to feel part of this team, because your talents are just as important to me as everybody else's talents. So I'm going to put you in. And that's what I've learned anyway. So that's my spiel on the whole thing. That's how I personally feel about it. Right, wrong, or indifferent. I think that's how we should be approaching the mentorship versus coaching things when we talk about it in our profession.
Yeah.
You got something, Pablo?
It's a fine line. Yeah, brother. It's a fine line. Honestly, like mentorship, like you could be a mentor to someone from afar. And I think that's something that I really, really want to get across to whoever's listening tonight, any of our audience. You could be a mentor to someone from afar. You could admire someone. And it's okay. You don't have to feel bad for admiring someone, for thinking, man, I like the way they do that. Coaching, to me, a coach or an instructor is someone that is like is drilling on you, and I don't want to use that word in a bad way, but just like drilling, like, all right, we're going to work on this skill, we're going to work on improving this particular skill set, whether it be a ladder throw or it be this or whatever, we're going to work on it. But a mentor, it's someone that, for me anyways, that just leads by example. That's that comes in and every single day does that same routine to set themselves up for success. They set themselves up for success, which then you just look at it and you're like, man, I like the way you do that. Like for example, and I'm by no means am I saying I'm a mentor or nothing on those lines, but I'm just saying, like, the other day I had one of the younger members look at the way that I carry my gear, because I carry my extrication equipment separate from my structural firefighting gear. It's just separate. Because I don't like to be completely weighed down. I want to have separate things for separate jobs that I'm about to go do. And they just looked at it and they're like, hey, what is this setup you got here? And I explained to them real quick the setup that I have and why I have it and how I keep it every single day, basically the same way. If you distort my setup in any way, it throws me for a fucking loop 7 ways from Sunday. So that's someone that was looking from afar and said, man, I like that setup. Why does he do it like that? I don't do it like that. And whatever he's doing has been helping him. He's obviously doing something that's put him in the path to success. So let me see what they're doing. As opposed to a coaching would have been if I would have gone up to that person and said, hey, which I've done before, don't get me wrong. Hey man, do it like this, and this is the only way to do it, or whatever, like, I don't know, something along those lines where we're drilling. And we got to be very careful. We got to be very careful as to coaching, or excuse me, like being drill instructors and all that type of stuff, man. So that's to me, that's walking a really, really fine line into teaching is a skill, man. It really is. And whoever does it at a high level, there is a path that crosses each other between mentors and coaches at this high level. And I'm pointing to you four, excuse me, at this high level of teaching. There is a crossroads where you are a mentor and you are a coach, because there's a thing as separates, there's literally someone that does mentors because you see them from afar and you admire, and there's someone that literally coaches you right in your face. But to us, to the gentleman that I surround myself with, even in my own firehouse, my Lou being one of them. Obviously, I think he's watching right now. They're mentors and they're coaches. Like I follow the way that he does things, even till this day. And I'll ask him for advice, so it's like, it's one of those things, like, he's coaching and he's mentoring. So there is a fine line between both at this type of level of instruction, because there is different. Remember, there's different talent levels, or there's different levels of talent to teaching. That word, that's a skill. That is a skill that not everybody has, to understand how to cater to an audience and teach individual lessons to people, but yet at the same time keep your path to success straight. And once again, never be caught in a lie, because the moment that you say, "Oh, I do this, I do this, I do this," but then when you get on scene and you don't do it, or when you do something that is detrimental to the mission or to the men or to the firehouse, and it's literally contradicting to what you've been preaching the entire time, at that point, to me anyway, you would lose all credibility. I would never look at you the same way. I would literally be like, that guy's a piece of shit.
100%.
Yeah.
And you know what? Those lines of mentorship and coaching, they do kind of cross and intertwine. You can be at days that you're a coach, and there's days that you function as a mentor. And it's okay to do both. And your mentorship, like most of my mentors, are mentorship from afar. I totally agree with you, Pablo. A lot of the guys that mentored me throughout my career may not even know they mentored me.
Absolutely.
I followed their behaviors. I followed their path. I followed their teachings. I understood their logic. I saw the way they approach within my agency, and I'm just talking about my department now, and I never actually do that on the podcast.
Robbie, you were once a me. You said earlier in the show, we've known each other for years. We have. Bro, you were once a me. You didn't even know that.
And I value and appreciate that position in your life. But we all look up to each other in one way, shape, or form. That's perfectly okay in the fire service. There's nothing wrong with us looking for people that have done something that we haven't yet, and to aspire to that goal, and to get to be like the path that they chose. A lot of guys and girls think that in order to be successful in this profession, you need a mentor, and you know what? Or the only way you're going to be successful is you get a mentor. But if you do well every single day you go to work, and you put in the effort, and you show that you are committed to this craft, a mentor will find you.
Absolutely.
All right. Every single one of us on this screen right now knows about a person in your agency today that you go to work every day and you're like, that kid gets it. And I'm going to make sure that he does A, B, and C, because that's a stud. And he has so much potential. And the fact that you're identifying potential, he's going to earn a mentor, because every single one of you is a mentor in one shape or form. So if these guys come to work, they do well, a mentor will find them. They don't have to go out of the way to find one to be successful. And I just wanted to add to that, because I love the fact that you mentioned mentorship from afar. Everyone thinks that they have to look around their firehouse or the station next door or even within their own agency. Dude, it's perfectly okay to find a mentor afar and follow and emulate them, and even become friends with them and find out if they can coach you or raise you in any way, shape, or form. And that's pretty cool.
Well said.
Yeah. I'll bring up the ego thing again. Like, the thing about ego is we're so protective in the fire service, like people are taking our shit, and I really hate that, because if we're truly about learning and sharing knowledge and not hoarding it, it really shouldn't matter whose name's on it. Because we want that information to get out. We want it to be shared, because that's how we make a standard, and that's how we get everybody on the same fucking page. So with that, as a mentor, like as a coach, I can teach you skills, right? I can teach you skills that I want you to have, because I know that they're going to make you successful. But as a mentor, my hope is that you far surpass my abilities in every way, shape, and form. And we have to be okay with that. Sometimes people can't understand that. Like when they grab a hold of somebody and they're like, "Hey kid, come here. Let me show you some stuff." And that kid gets it, and they start like rising and just really doing well. Sometimes people will get a little uneasy. They're like, well, that person's the way they are because of me.
Absolutely.
And that's where we have to understand that really in this job, we're not self-servants. And if you're in it to be a self-servant, then you should probably just leave, right?
Yep.
Our job is to make any emergency we get called to better. Our job is to make the people around us better and our organization better. End of discussion. So if that's not on your plate and you're not willing to swallow that, then this may not be the job for you. We have to humble ourselves and realize, like, when I see potential in somebody and I'm planting that seed, I have to make sure I do everything in my power to get my hands dirty and just make that seed grow. Benjamin Martin talks about this awesome thing where a farmer plants a seed and he just doesn't expect it to grow, right? He gets his hands dirty in the soil and he cultivates that seed and he makes it grow. And that's what we need to be doing as mentors, right?
Mhm.
Because every single one of us, if you want to really get technical, every single one of us are temporary employees. And what I mean by that is eventually we're all going to retire.
Yep.
So if we truly care about this profession and we truly care about the individuals that we're serving and we understand that we're public servants and not self-servants, then our intention should be to build a legacy that continues long after we're gone with
Mhm.
people that can take it further than we were ever able to.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
That's the whole point, so we have to let go of ego and just understand that like we're all in this, hopefully we're all in this together, right? And if we can all achieve that same goal of just making this job the best that we can and instilling that mindset through future generations to come, man, this fire service is going to be incredible to watch.
Yeah.
That's exciting, man. That really is exciting.
Yeah,
That's
for
pretty
sure.
awesome. You got something, Greggy?
Yeah, I'll yeah. So I got a question here, Herb. You don't have to put it up right now. I'll tell you when to put my little graph up. But so I'm going to tell a little story where I feel that I became basically an infant captain, company officer, to where I grew up in an instance over a call that I had, and I was riding up as the battalion chief, and it was my crew. So let me tell you that. But so the question I'm going to ask you guys, and I want you to think about it, and I already know your answer because we talked about it a little bit, but I'm going to throw it out there: is search and rescue, finding a victim is the most important thing on the fire ground. Period. In my opinion, I'll argue that with anybody. And everything else kind of supports it. Now there are some that are immediate support. There's some that's a little bit longer. So go into my call. It was a dark, stormy night. Not really, but anyway. So we were on a 800 square foot shotgun shack. It's basically a rectangle, and then they build out the bedroom off of the delta wall. They build it in so it separates a living room. You get a little hallway, a door into a bedroom, and then the back of the house is a kitchen and a bathroom. Very, very, very low income, but we have quite a few of them in our city. We went in. Everybody in the whole firehouse was stepped up into the position in front of them. I don't know if it was holidays or something or whatever. I was riding the chief. The rescue company that was going was so you guys are going to love this. It was a rescue company that came in, and I assigned them as an inside truck company, and they got the search. So they were coming in on the alpha side on the porch, and like I said, everybody was stepped up. So it was a step up officer. They push to the porch. They get there. The engine, the engine rolled up a little bit after that, and they stretched the line. As they were stretching into the alpha side, there was already another engine that stretched. The back porch was like the Bravo Charlie corner. So they made that rear door all Dade County pine, sealed like a tinder box. They made that rear door, fires right there in the kitchen. They start knocking the fire down on the Bravo Charlie corner. Alpha side gets a little bit delayed. The guys still push in to search. 3 aggressive dudes on the rescue. They're like hose lines flowing in the rear. We got pretty good moderate amount of smoke here. First guy goes in, second guy goes in. They kind of do an oriented search. Officer kind of stays on that front wall towards the door. As they pass him, he punches the ceiling to make sure it's not over him because it's all tongue and groove. Hits it a couple times, takes a look up there, a little bit of smoke's pumping out. He sits there. As he's sitting by the front door, it flashes from the rear, blows straight out the front, smokes all 3 of their gear. These guys knew where they were, crawled themselves back out the front door. A step-up officer at that time, maybe like a 8-year-ish guy, stayed at the door taking the feed to make sure his guys could get out the front door, and then they rolled out on the porch. So I learned a million things that night. I'll never veer off the point of if my truck company arrives first, I'm signing them truck company work. I'm not going to hold off. I'm not going to do anything. If my third in engine comes in and they're an engine company, I'm assigning them engine work, period. And then I'm going to keep my tactical rhythm going, I'm going to fill the gaps with my rescues. And that's exactly what I did. The front line, the alpha line was a little bit delayed, which threw off. Everyone was just rocking and rolling. It was just one of those things that happened. So as I'm coming up as the chief, guys running around, hey man, my nephew's in there. So we're walking up and now we're like, all right, we got to get moving. I told the rescue, whatever. So that's how it all played out. Well, his nephew was 15 years old. He was down at the end of the road at his girlfriend's house, but you don't know that. You think nephew, this guy's 30 years old. You're thinking it's an 8-year-old or a 6-year-old.
Yeah.
I found out around the entire house, bars around the back, chicken wire on the front doors or on the sides and the front windows. The only entrance was the back door and the front door. So 800 square foot, needed my truck company to do some work. They started doing all that. So that solidifies the point how important search is, because if the one firefighter that made it in the farthest, he was at the door when it flashed and he came straight out.
Mm-hmm.
He said if he was a couple more steps in and he would have pushed into that room, he would have shut the door, he would have confined himself to that room, but he couldn't get out because of the chicken wire on the outside, the thick, heavy chicken wire. The truck company is coming around. They were more worried about fire in the front, so they stalled and pulled a bumper line instead of doing truck work. So we had a big powwow and everything got settled, and everything worked out. We learned a lot. The nephew was down the road. We got the primary search. It flashed. These guys rolled out. They rolled back in, finished the job. Everything was said and done. But search being the most important thing, everything supported. To me, that absolutely proved it. It absolutely proved how important bars and everything on the outside of the building, making access points, exit points for your guys doing your search, because now you're not searching 800 square feet from front to back. Now you're searching 300 feet to an exit, 300 feet to an exit. So what's your guys' take on that? And
splitting it into divisions. It's the same thing where Sean talked about with large commercial structures. What is essentially a VES search? You're splitting into a division. What is doing OVM work and softening the building? You want to split it into divisions. Absolutely. Great call, and I couldn't agree with you more. We said it a little bit off air earlier when we were talking. Life safety, going back to minimum standards in IFSTA, this is when we've bashed them enough. We'll say something nice. Life safety, incident stabilization, property conservation. Our number one objective is life safety at the end of the day. Talking about the analogy of the vehicle accident, you get turned out to a nasty pin job. You're on I-75. You get there. I
love that.
Fucking thing is rolled over 75 ways from Sunday. Shit, it looks fucking gnarly. The shit is not on fire, and there's nobody inside. What the hell do? You say, well, engine so and so to command. We're clear. We're going back to the firehouse. I got nothing to do there because there's nobody for me to save. Our job is life safety, whether it be on an MVA or a working fire. Our job is life safety. I think that's literally what it boils down to. And when we talk about the name of the class, searchable versus survivable, tacticians versus mutts, we just don't name it that because we can't. Nobody. Actually, I think most people will sign up for that. But but no, absolutely, brother. I couldn't agree more. And splitting the structure into divisions is so huge when it comes to searching and doing that outside truck work.
Yeah. So this is we talked about this earlier. This is basically since I had 5-6 years on, I was breaking it all down, and this is kind of how I broke it down years ago. And I think Herbie's gonna end up putting this on our website or on our Facebook site, so anybody can take it, steal it, destroy it, like it, send it back to me with inappropriate drawings. I don't care, but this right here is how I broke it down into like 3 or 4 different tiers, and it works, and it seems like a lot of people like it. And as of 15, 16, 17 years, I'm telling you, there's only 1 or 2 things that have really changed on this little silly graph that I was doodling years ago. So what's your take on that, Duff? What do you think about that?
So I can't really see it here, but let's see. So is this all your tactical objectives? Like what you
Yeah,
do
it
in
kind of
photo?
starts in the center. It's figured as a bullseye. Get the most points for the center. You got the VIX, and that's your primary. Going to locate the
All
fire, and
right.
then you're going to work your way out. Fire attack on the
VES.
outside. Yeah, VES. All the
So
way out.
so here's what I'm gonna say about that. And I love engine work. Don't get me wrong. Like I've had nozzle in my hand many times, and it is a blast. And it is definitely essential on the fire ground. Not trying to take that away from anybody. But if you give me the option of what I want to do, I want to be searching because for me, that's where I'm going to do the greatest good. Right, the quicker I can get in there, and the quicker I could occupy the space where victims are most likely to be, put my hands on them, and physically remove them, the more successful that outcome is going to be. Again, fire attack has to happen. Two crucial things on the fire ground: fire attack and ventilation. However, I feel that a lot of times we put search further down in that list because we're waiting on fire attack or ventilation. And by the time that we search and maybe we do find that victim, it could be 10, 12 minutes into the incident.
Mm-hmm.
And when we look at where we have the greatest impact, numbers don't lie. And when we get those rescue surveys back, what we find out is that the first 4 minutes on scene account for nearly 60% of our victim survival rate. I'm getting in that building, period. Any means possible. I don't care if it's one window. If that's the window that I can get in to search, that's fine. But going back to what Chief Reinwald was talking about the other day, why do we only think of things as one skill? Who says that a front door or a back door is the only way into the building? If a window is our way that we got to get in, why can't we not bring a hose line with us?
Mm-hmm.
Protect the search effort with the hand line. Most of the time, we're showing up with two people, right? So if we have the ability to stretch that line and search, and that is where we have to impact, or our greatest impact is. Guess what? I can have Pablo on the hand line. It only takes one person to put out the fire, and I could be searching that space. He's protecting that search effort.
Yeah.
With that said, I'm a huge advocate that search is our number one priority. I'm gonna defend that 100% every time.
I agree. No, I agree with you. And then for the guys out there and gals that are watching that have low staffing, and you're saying to yourself, well, I don't have the luxury of working in a 500 member fire department, et cetera, and I'm pulling up with a 2-man engine or a 3-man engine or whatever.
Are we on? Did we lose him?
Who, me?
You got
Can
me?
you hear me?
Who did we lose?
I don't think we lost anybody.
I don't think. Yeah.
Oh, you guys!
So-
I lost you guys for a second. I'm sorry.
I think you're lost, Rob.
Robbie, wait, Rob.
Come back, Rob.
For the people that have that 2-man or 3-man engine, and that's what they're going to be doing a fire attack with. How do I say this without getting too much into like nozzle forward stuff or air and fuels and stuff? One of the reasons that actually I like that class and is are we the city of Seattle? Are we pushing in with a deuce and a half or this and that or whatever? No, man, it is what it is. There's a lot of things that might not be applicable for each different section of the country, whatever. That's another story for another day. But one of the reasons that I like that class is because it teaches you how to maneuver a hand line by yourself, and which in turn will let you understand that I could protect the search. I do not need someone to get in there and help me hand jack this hand line through the structure. I can maneuver this hand line by myself. I could get through pinch points by myself. I have to understand how to cool environment by myself. And can you search off of a hand line and trust your partner to protect you? 100% absolutely. Which in turn, not only are you putting out the fire, but you are still doing the primary function of our job, which is life safety. We need to search these structures.
Yeah, and I'm gonna put it this way. Since you brought up Aaron Fields, I respect the hell out of that guy. I think he's done tremendous things. But some of the stuff that he says in regards to like nozzle work, directly relates to search as well, right?
Yes.
So he talks about what? Taking and making space. Can we not do that without the handline? Absolutely we can. We talked about this earlier. I can get into a building, isolate, right? We do that with VES or VEIS, whatever you choose to call it. But as we're going through as search crews and we're identifying these spaces and we're searching, we're closing doors and we're protecting that flow path and we're using our spring clamps on the doors to keep them shut from whatever we're doing, we're having a tremendous impact. We are in that aspect taking and making space.
Absolutely.
And although we're not slinging water down a hallway and making the push, in that same capacity, we are creating atmospheres for our potential victims or those who are confirmed to be trapped in those fires. We're creating spaces for them that are more survivable than they were if we never entered that building.
Absolutely.
That's the whole point, in my opinion. Like I said, you're going to have people that are going to disagree, and that's fine. Like, that's the beautiful thing about these discussions. Like, I don't have to agree with you, but I can still respect the shit out of you.
100%.
100.
Go ahead.
Well, go ahead,
No,
Kirby.
Every single thing that you guys are saying has been, and just I think Pablo said it earlier. Nothing that we talk about or we say, we're not reinventing the wheel.
Fuck no.
Absolutely no.
Like the five of us on this computer screen right now, we're a bunch of dumb fucking firemen. and that's the reality of it. The difference is that, and I'm gonna steal my boy Greg's line a little bit, is we're just more organized with the way we give you guys the information.
Yes.
And that is the reality of it.
Sure.
So the fact that we're out here giving people the information and you guys are hitting on everything, it literally it lets some of these guys know, because some of the guys that are chiming in, I know for a fact, are at smaller departments. And especially at the smaller departments, that some of these guys haven't seen a fire in 3 years.
Yeah.
And that still doesn't change the fact that you're still a fucking fireman. Because guess what? You're going to get that call tomorrow, and they expect you to fucking be a top tier fireman tomorrow. When that call drops, you better be a fucking top tier guy. You're in the Super Bowl that fucking day, right there. They do not care that, hey, I don't have a training site to train on. I don't have all that. They don't want to hear that. So the every single thing that you guys are hitting on is awesome, and the work that you guys are doing, Sean, and is awesome. You guys are doing phenomenal work.
Well, the one thing with that too is it's the fighter pilot analogy. Like those guys, they don't see dogfights anymore like they did back in Pearl Harbor era and all that. But these guys train just as hard. And when they train like that, I mean, they're training on videos, they're training on everything they can possibly train on for that one encounter of less than 30 seconds.
Hey, the 49ers, remember? Yeah, piece of gold.
Fighter pilots, brother. You lost me at the 49ers thing, dude.
Piece of gold.
One other thing, instead of that 49ers thing, Sean, we don't talk like that on here, do that VEIS. Don't talk like that, bro. You got
yeah.
To me, I hate that.
Where's the Chief Bentley at? Very intense search.
Yeah, I was trying to remember. I was like, where's Shane at?
Yeah, that was beautiful.
So
very intense search.
Let me put it this way. And this is not mine by any means. This came from Brian Brush and his article.
Good.
VES, Victims Expecting Search. Plain and simple, right? That's what we're after. I hate the fact that we put an I in there because we're automatically assuming that we can isolate, and that just might not be the case.
Absolutely.
So when we're teaching people VEIS, isolate, what happens when you get to the fucking door and there is no door? What are you going to do? Are you going to freak out and shit yourself because all of the training is that I have to isolate?
Yeah,
You know,
that's exactly,
so
that's exactly what they're going to do. They're going to freak out and come right back outside. That's a very good point.
yeah,
Unless
so that
unless in their training they found no door and they address that in training.
Ah,
right,
ah,
which
correct rep pattern.
Eric Wheaton and the boys from Can Confidence and Event Enter Search, they do a phenomenal job in teaching that in their class. And I think that's what we need to be focusing on is, hey, the intent here is if you can isolate, by all means, that is the best thing to do. But you may not be able to. And here's a taboo thing for you if we're talking about VES. Me personally, I cringe when I see people taking the window and the sash with a ladder. I fucking hate it because here's the point. You're taking that window and you're giving that fire everything it needs. And when you hop in, if there's no door, you just fucked yourself. So wait till you're up there and you're on air and you're ready.
And
Take the window
and the victim if they're in there.
Right. If we're talking about, it's all about time, right? And that's what we're going to preach, time, and realize that you just took time away from somebody. If you're not on air and you're down there and you just take this ladder and you smash it against that window and you break everything out, if there's no door because somebody took it off or that's a room that doesn't have a door for whatever reason, that's not a benefit to you or the victim. It would be better if you place the ladder where it's supposed to go, climbed up, put yourself on air, then took the window, or put yourself on air before you climb the ladder, then took the window, right? Because once you take that glass, you can't put it back, right? You've changed the conditions, you've changed flow path, and everything that I've researched about flow path, it's that that when we take those windows and we create that opposing flow paths like that, right? We have more exhaust or entry points than we do exhaust points. That's where firefighters get killed, right? That's where we create flashovers and stuff like that. So we got to be mindful of what it is we're doing. So when we put acronyms to things like VEIS, that's essentially saying this is how you operate. And that's not always the case of what we're going to be doing or what we face.
And just to add to what Sean just said, for the people watching, and I love that you mentioned that, bro, because you and I have never talked about this, but we're on the same page because we're very like-minded. I years ago we taught our members, take the window, take the sash with the ladder when you're getting ready to VES. Then the studies came out and we understood what we were doing wrong. And now we're teaching our members, set your window up, set your ladder up for VES, mask up, make the window, take the sash, take the glass, take the lady parts, the dressing of the inside of the window, and make entry. Because all you're doing by taking that window from the ground, if it takes you 20 seconds, 30 seconds to mask up and make that ladder, you're changing the condition, the tenability of that room instantly. Because you just gave that fire all it cares about is its next fucking breath. And you just created an oxygen-rich environment to an oxygen or vent-limited environment. And we teach the same thing. I'm a survival guy, so when we're teaching survival and we're teaching window bailouts, if you're going to take that window, the second you take that window, you've passed the point of no return. You take that window, you need to be out of that room because that tenable environment that you refuged to bail out of that building because all shit went bad. Now you took the window, you just hit fast forward on that bell curve. And that room that you're in is no longer safe because you just gave that fire its next breath. So whenever we focus on firefighter survivability and bailout, we take that window last. Once you found your anchor, once you created your belt, once you're doing whatever you're doing with your department-specific gear, and you're going out that window, you're not going to take the window and be like, oh, shit, dude, you know what? I ain't going to do that no more. No, you just created a real bad situation for yourself.
Well, and let's realistically look at it. Usually, when that maneuver is happening, the person that's throwing the ladder and taking the sash is not the guy going in the window. You know what I mean? So he's hitting the sash. You go up, you crawl into that shit, you get smoked, and you're like, God, it's really hot, man. Like, what's going on in here? You know what I mean? I don't understand. But then if you're the guy that's doing it, you're like, you know what? I'm not doing that shit again. I'm going to throw the ladder. I'm going to go up. I'm going to peek inside. I'm going to call for someone, make sure they're home. Then I'm going to take the window, drop into the building, see what's going on. You know what I mean? Like that. That's realistic how that goes down.
So if we're talking about a sense of realism and doing what makes sense, here's another thing that might strike some nerves, but that's okay. Like it doesn't bother me. A lot of times people are teaching head first in, which is how I was taught. And I taught that for a lot of years too, until I realized how much does our air packs really weigh? Usually generally like 27 pounds, something like that, right? Depending on the manufacturer. Um,
25 and a half for the MSAs.
Yeah, right. So depending on what air pack you have, it's different. But what is all right here? Usually like clips and things like that. Your straps, your regulator is right there in the center when you plug in. So I don't want to be going headfirst into anything where all this stuff can get snagged. Number one. Number two, once you make that commitment and we sound the floor, we have to understand that the strongest point of that floor is closest to the window, where everything joins, right? As we branch out further, that's where the weakest points are. So we sound this thing, we're like, yep, it's a solid floor. We dive in, and then we take 3 steps and boof, through the floor we go, right? Conditions. We talk about conditions. What if there is no door and things change rapidly? The point I'm getting at is I can live without my arm, I can live without my leg, but I cannot live without my airway. So when I dive in head first, uncontrolled into something, when fire conditions change within seconds like they do, that is a very tough position to get upright yourself and bail out. Whereas if we take ourselves and we kind of protect the sill, we straddle ourselves in, we give ourselves a high five, outside wall, inside wall, right? And we ease our way in and we get down, that's a much more controlled instance to where if shit happens, I'm already in a bailout position. I just roll out the window and I hang there. And I say, hey, like, point I'm getting at is I don't want to trash the way that we're teaching things. I just want to see people think about why we're doing things and what makes more sense, because when we tell people that this is how we do it, we tend to train it one way. And that's the way. And if somebody shows you different, they're like, nope, that's not it. We go head first. We take the window with a ladder because that's what we do. And we got to we really got to get better at getting off the checklist of acronyms and realizing that it's about functionality and doing what makes sense.
We evolve, bro. We evolve. I used to be one of the guys that would take a window and then start masking up and stuff like that. Like, man, I get it. I get it. There are guys out there that mask up in 4 seconds. God bless you. Like, I'm trying, but point of the story is, like, I now am a fan of, if I'm assigned to VES, I'm assigned to the rear, or I'm assigned to the side to do a search, I'm full intention of searching. I'm about to take this window to go search. So I'm ready to work. Once I take the window, I'm ready to go work. I don't want to take the window and then take a step back and then start masking up and this and that. Like, I'm ready to go. I'm ready to work because the flow path is already starting to work in there. So, and then just a random thought about, because it's been a little bit of a joke with the very intense search. Just a random thought about, like, the intense search. When we're assigned to search, and I've heard this so many times over the years that I kind of like, I'm like, what do you mean by that? We search harder when it's like a pediatric, when it's a this, when it's a that. Like, I don't understand that. For me, the structure will dictate how I search. And then it being a pediatric or a geriatric might dictate or might lead me to places of where they might be at, as opposed to another place, like a bedroom or out by a hallway or whatever, depending on where, like, a crib might be. But, like, the intensity of a search should never change based on what you are searching for. Like, if I'm working for Cap Ramirez and Cap Ramirez assigns me to search, I am going to give you a 100% search of that structure, depending, does not matter what I'm searching for. It could be a pediatric, it could be a geriatric, it could be if you tell me, hey, Pablo, we got a confirmed dog in there, and all right, cool, Cap, you want me to search? Like, my assignment is to search, and I'm going to give you a search of the building to the best of my abilities. What changes how I search is what I'm searching for and what the building is telling me. Depending on what type of structure, then I change the style of my search, and depending on what I'm searching for is where I'm going to hit a little bit more points where they might be at more than in another room. Like, pediatrics might be sleeping with their parents. Okay, cool. I'll note that. Like, geriatrics, might be bedridden. So I might note that. things that I might note that might change the style of which I'm searching and how I'm searching. But my intention should never search. If I'm assigned to a search, I'm giving you 100% no matter what I'm searching for.
It's funny what you were saying too, Sean, about checking outside of the window and all that. An old timer. This is one of the things that stuck with me when I was, 1 or 2 years on. We were going in, and it was they didn't even call it VES then. That's how old I am. It was called like ladder assist search or something like that. So, anyways, you go in the second floor, and I'd go in head first. And I was kind of like, God, this sucks, man. Like I'm hitting pretty hard with this Halligan. And the old timer just sitting there, hanging out. He's like, hey man, why don't you get a longer tool? And I was like, Jesus, that's genius. And he goes, another thing, instead of you hitting the ground like that, he goes, why don't you just swing a leg over, ease yourself down? So I'm like, man, this guy is cutting edge. Just something as simple as that. And then when I became a lieutenant, I always carried the hook. Granted, it's a little cumbersome. It's 6 foot. It's a little bit longer. But going over and doing VES and all that, it was I'm a whopping 5'6" and 1/16. You know what I mean? So monster. So anyways, going over with the hook, I used it to stay on the sill. I used it to check out inside of the room. I used it to my advantage. So, and that was just as simple as someone having some common sense back in the day going, hey, short stack, why don't you grab a bigger tool so you don't hit the ground so hard?
That's awesome.
Yeah. I thought it was genius.
With the going in the window head first, or I call it shouldering the building. That sandwich that you're creating with your hands outside wall, inside wall. I refer to it as shouldering the building whenever we're teaching to going in, straddling the windowsill, shouldering the outside wall, inside wall. Anytime that we teach it, and we do the same thing with like entanglements and stuff like that. I always teach the guys, listen, this is the way you probably should do it because it works real well in case you got to get out. But if you can't because you get to that window and you find a dresser, a mirror, a bed, a rail that you can't now doesn't allow you to put your leg in the building, you also need to have a plan B. Your plan B may be still going head first in the window. So you give them a plan A and a plan B, or a primary and a contingency plan, or that PACE algorithm where you're going, and I've heard Paulie Capel talk about it as well. You have your primary action plan, you have your alternate plan, your contingency plan, and then your emergent plan. And every skill has to have a couple of those. Similar to when we're talking about like getting through some type of low profile survival problem. We're talking about, listen, your primary action plan is going to be position your body. Your alternate plan is going to be arrange your gear. Your contingency plan, and none of those two work, is going to be maybe position your gear and your body. And then your emergent plan is to finally take off your air pack, pass it through the hole, get through it, and get it back on. So every time that we teach a skill, we give them 3 different ways to do that skill in order to give them as many reps as possible, so that when they get to that, that shit that never happens all the time situation, they have a file in their hard drive they can refer back to, which at one time in their career resulted in a positive outcome, and that's what they're going to go to at that moment. And I really enjoy teaching because of those reasons, because you get to fill the brain with so many cool things, and I love the going in shoulder first or feet first. I'm sorry, but if that doesn't work, we have to be able to transition seamlessly into a head first dive.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was just telling somebody just now, like, my views and what I teach are by no means the only way, right? It's just merely a way. All I ask when we do these things is that people open their minds to another possibility.
I love that.
Conditions are going to dictate what our tactics are, plain and simple. So, like you said, I'm not saying not to go in head first. I'm just saying, like, hey, do we need to do that all the time? I'm not saying, that we have to go straight to the door and close it. Do we have to do that all the time? No fire is the same, and that's where we have to, if we're professionals, we have to understand and humble ourselves that, like, hey, just because I'm trained this way doesn't mean that I shouldn't open my mind to other ways, because there may come a time where I have to do this one thing. And that might be the difference between saving my ass or somebody else's ass. But if I'm only focused on one way because I'm stubborn and arrogant, then in my opinion, you're just a one-track fireman. You're no good to me, because I need somebody who's easily adaptable to the situation they're facing.
Yeah.
Hey, so real quick, I think Pablo hit on it earlier, talking about the younger generation that's coming up and people that are eventually going to take our spots. You know what I'm saying? Like Greg's knocking on death's door any day now. But so Greg actually taught my new boy school when I got hired. So he and we talk about mentors and stuff like that. Like he was one of my mentors.
How you passed, I'll never know.
The verdict's still out. But so here's a younger guy in the fire service that I met, and he has a question for you guys. Tyler Whitfield. This kid is made up with it. He goes to all the training events, all about it. And Greg and I literally got to meet him. We did a little event with Cigar City Fools 2 weeks ago. And literally the fireman's fireman. He is eager to learn, just wants to learn every possible thing he can learn. And that shit makes, and I'm pretty sure I can speak for all five of us, when you have those students in your class that want to learn and are just picking your brain nonstop, it makes our job as instructors so much easier because it shows what we're doing is the right thing. And so his question for you guys were, what are your thoughts about searching ahead of the hose line? He said our truck companies train and operate this way, but it also blows people's minds still and causes issues in the surrounding areas because command tries to tends to lose their mind on it. So what's your guys' take on that?
That's real quick, Sean, and I'll
go ahead, buddy.
Todd, by the way, I could not say any more good things about Tyler. I know him personally. The kid's the real deal, man. And seriously, bro, love that. Every single training that I've damn near gone to in the state of Florida, I see Tyler. He's a real deal, man. Mm-hmm. Having said that, truck work. All right, I get it. So real quick before my disclaimer is, my engine guys out there, I get it. I understand how as the first line goes, the fire goes. You can't fuck up the first line. You're gonna burn the building. I get it.
Don't baby the engine guys, man. Don't baby them.
I
Say it how it is, bro.
I have to. Poor little fellas. But
weasel wagons.
Poor little fellas. But truck work, especially in the suburban setting, in which most of us fight fire in, truck work can control the building. If you are a good truckie from the interior and exterior, the OVM and the interior, you could absolutely control the building, control the search via even a small little 2.5 gallon water can to just isolating a fucking door to putting the hole in the right place, whether it be vertical or horizontal. Truck work controls the building.
I couldn't agree more because we talked about that back in the day, that the truck, when we were starting to push the squad concept in the truck company at the department I work for, and it was a knockdown, drag out argument, but it came down as the truck controls the building, the engine controls the fire, the rescues control the search. And if you get those three guys or companies pushing like that flawlessly, which is why we went, engine guys do water shit. Hoses and engines and fucking OS and Ys and all that, that's your shit. The building, tearing it open, doing what we got to do methodically and correctly, that's going to be the truck company guys. That means our rescues, our squads, and other units personally can search. And that's it. That's in a nutshell. That's how it works.
That's why I gravitate so much to truck work. That and you know, like I get it. We don't work for New York or Chicago, whatever. But I gravitate a fuck ton to truck work, even in the suburban setting, because to me the engine, don't get me wrong, the engine is fun. You're on the pipe. You're fucking putting the water out. It's fun. Putting the water on the fire. It's fun. I get it. But truck work, legitimately, you have to understand what you're doing. You really don't start understanding the fire ground until you start working on a truck or doing truck functions, off of an engine or off of a fire-based ambulance, and you're doing truck functions, and every action that you do has an opposite and equal reaction in which you can either help or hinder the scene. by what you're doing and how you're placing a hole or putting or shutting a door, or even something as simple as interior truck work while you're fucking pulling ceiling and the hose line is not in place yet, and you find and you go into a bedroom or a closet or whatever the fuck, you poke a hole in the ceiling, you find fire, and you keep on pulling and you keep on pulling and you keep on pulling, and the hose line is not in place yet. You just burned half the fucking attic down. Hold on, you find a hole, stop, or you put a hole, you have some fire. Stop. Isolate that real quick. Isolate it if you can. If you're in a closet, close the fucking closet door. Wait until the hairline gets.
I love that.
Everything that you do, from interior to exterior truck work, you control the building.
I had a guy tell me that one time. Go ahead, Sean.
Go ahead, Robert.
I was going to say, I'm going to add to what he said. Go ahead.
All I was going to say is this goes back to what we were talking about all the way in the beginning of sizing up your search effort, right? Putting crews ahead of the hand line, I think, is important, okay? Obviously, it depends on what unit gets there first, right? If your engine company's there first and they have the line, they got the water, then it makes sense for them to stretch the line and start going towards the fire. However, while they're doing that, they could be searching along the way, because a lot of our victims are found, in the flow paths, right? That's where we're finding our victims. Either A, fire room, B, room adjacent to, or C, in the flow path, right? Yes. So that's where the fire attack crew is going to go. Yes. If you are there at the same time, let the search crew go first. Plain and simple. Yes. Okay? Yes. Because what do we tell everybody? When you search, go closest to the fire and work your way back. You are in my fucking way if you go ahead of me. You're slowing me down, and time is of essence. And when we talk about modern fire growth, it's measured in seconds, not minutes, plain and simple. So I have to get in there. I'm sorry if that's a problem for you. Hey. You'll get to your fire, I promise you. But I'm the one doing the searching, and I need to clear these areas first, because what happens is the fire attack team tends to go to the fire and they tend to focus on the fire, okay, which is their primary mission. And then 2 guys, 3 guys, maybe on a hand line are focused on this moth to the flame, fire, and they're not searching behind them. It only takes 1 guy to put out the damn fire. So guess what? If you're going to be so focused on that and you're not going to look at where your crews are positioned, I have my nozzle man here at the fire, and then the guy behind the nozzle man is turned the opposite direction, monitoring conditions, then let me go first, so that I can clear that space before you clog my pathway to it.
Hey, a hose line has reach. A hose line has reach. I could only stretch about 6 foot plus my hook.
Facts.
Well, I mean, what do they say? A stream will reach 75 feet or whatever. You know what I mean? So if you've got reach and you can hit that from a distance, then really, couldn't you protect my search effort with your hand line and then let me clear those spaces and then push in? You absolutely could. So why are we fighting on search can't go until the line goes? No, man. I could be searching, you come behind me and protect my search effort, and we're killing 2 birds with 1 stone. So what's the problem?
Yeah, but it also boils down to the fact of every single person on the fire ground feels as if their position is the most important at that time.
Absolutely.
And 100% you should take it as that is the most important job. But we are there for them. Excuse me, damn. Apologize, COVID. We're in a weird time right now. I apologize, guys.
Here's what I'm going to say to that. We are there for them, right?
100%.
So think about this for a second. Everybody should feel that their job is the most important, because it is. Every job on the fire ground is important. 100%. Hands down. Where we get in trouble is when I have a fire attack team that doesn't want to help me. So if I'm trying to push through and you're clogging the hallway and I'm like, hey man, let me get past, and then maybe we're doing a split search and my partner's searching a different room than I am, and I find a victim, why can't I take the second or third guy on the hand line to help put hands on that victim and drag them till I can get back to my partner? Instead, what we do is we clog the hallway and we yell and we scream at each other, get the fuck out of my way, move. And we don't work together. So that's really what I think the problem is it's not a matter of who gets there first or what's important over the other. It's a matter of saying, hey, your job's equally as important as mine, but this is what needs to happen. Let's work together. Right?
Yep.
If I'm ahead of the hand line and I'm searching these spaces, maybe the fire tech team hasn't gotten there yet. So what can we do? We can close that door, right? Like we said, and then tell them as we're searching, hey guys, your fire's down to the right. The door is closed. I just told them everything they need to know. In the meantime, I'm searching and I'm out of their way. So that's where it becomes that training. And we do that in our search class. We purposely put the search crew ahead of the hand line, and we have the hand line and the search crew meet for a reason so they can work through it. Generally, there's a victim right by the fire room, and every single time we have the fire tech team focused on the fire. They don't even touch that victim, which is mind-boggling to me because it's like, dude, somebody go put their hands on that victim and start dragging them away from that fire until the search team can meet up with you, and then you just pass off and then you go back to what you're doing. So that's that communication drill that we worked on. We don't do that enough, and I think that's why we aren't comfortable with letting the search team ahead of the hand line, and we feel the need that they have to take precedence over the search.
Well, but it also goes back to that mindset of, and an old timer once told me, he goes, "Hey, listen, son, when you come in, he goes, your first fire, you're gonna have these blinders on." He goes, and slowly throughout time, those blinders are gonna open up. And the fact of the matter is, I don't care where you work. No one is fighting fires as much as we want to.
Nope.
So blinders are on.
Yeah.
But it's through your training, it's through all those repetitions that you're doing that, your blinders going to be on. But as to take a word from my man Rob, you're going to go into your hard drive and be like, "Hey, listen, I've been here before.
Mm-hmm.
Let me open it up a little bit. Oh, fuck. Okay, yeah, I'm on the hand line. But guess what? There's a victim right here. I don't give a fuck about the house. Let's get this victim away from harm's way, and let's do that." And you've seen that through so much training that people just don't realize because of those blinders. The blinders are on.
Well, what you're talking about blinders too is people need to realize that a fire does not have to be large to be deadly, right? It's about exposure, duration, and time. So you can have a large exposure over a short amount of time, have a fatal outcome, or you could be in there for a short amount of time, but what you're exposed to is of higher concentrations and you're done. And I don't know if that makes sense to people, but that's really what the purpose is what are they exposed to? How long have they been in there? I don't care if fire's blowing out like 2 or 3 windows. This could be a small fire, but the fact that it's gone undetected and they've been exposed to those elements has a fatal outcome. So if the time it takes me to show up, force a door, do whatever, come into a window, grab that victim and get him out is shorter than it is for me to stretch a line and work my way through that house and fight that fire, then that's what needs to happen. End of discussion. There needs to be no debate about it. We have to start doing the things that are of greater benefit to our victims who are in these environments. And the studies show that, right? So if we can understand that, I think that maybe we can get over our egos of truck has to search, engine has to do the line. Like, really, it doesn't matter. Somebody go get the people, and then we'll figure out the rest here.
Especially for us here in the state of Florida, where we throw fucking audibles. We have to. We have to. This is what we have over a lot of other states, a lot of our counterparts in which we look up to, so to speak. Like the big major American cities.
Like
we throw audibles like there's like no others, bro. Like no others. So and that's something that it's definitely we have to hit on training the audibles.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely.
I want to take a look at Tyler's question. And every time that we teach a class, and I don't know if I'm gonna answer this question directly or just cause more confusion. But if we're teaching an engine class, we talk about, for example, the engine class that we do, and I've seen Stephen Negley comment a couple of times. So the engine company class that we've been doing in Orlando for 10 years at the Orlando Fire Conference. We teach a portion of the class that's searching and advancing, or searching and stretching. And we talk about anytime that you're in a building, and I'm a huge believer in this. Anytime that you're in a building, I don't give a fuck if you're an engine company, a RIT team, a search team, a truck, a squad, a rescue, OV, roof. If you're in a building, you're searching. You're conducting some form of search. You're either searching for bodies or searching for fire. And then the data tells us, and Sean just mentioned it earlier, that as that hose line takes that path of entry, be it the alpha side front door, the side door, whatever the normal door is that these people use day in and day out to get in and out of their structure, that's where you're going to find the most of your victims statistically. After that's going to be nearest to the fire room or adjacent to it, or the fire room itself, number 3, if you look at the data itself. Right. So as you're stretching and advancing on an engine company, you should be conducting some form of search. Mm-hmm. You can operate on a truck with the priority being life safety and life rescue. So the truck and the engine can work autonomously, but together to conduct the same thing. It increases everything. It increases the victim's survivability, increases our survivability. Most firefighter rescues, and most maydays were resolved 88% of the time by members already in the building, whether it was a truck, an adjacent company, another truck company, another engine company, who heard Rob call the mayday, and Sean was in the room next door pulling ceiling, or Pablo was making a stretch and saw me in the hallway. I just passed Rob. I'm going to go back 5 feet, make a left, and find him. So 88% of the time, 88% of the time, shit gets better when we're in the building. Now, engines should be conducting some form of search and stretching while maintaining first do engine company discipline. Your job is to get the line to the fire. FDNY commits 2 fucking engines to the first line. That's 10 people to 1 hose line because they understand the importance of getting the hose line to the fire. Once the fire's out, everything's better. We understand that. Okay? But, man, you can't, like Sean said, you start prioritizing one over the other and you get yourself in a pickle. They're both equally important. They can both work autonomously, but together. But as many people as we can get in the building, let's get them in there right away. And everyone in the building needs to be conducting some form of research. To answer Tyler's question, I completely agree with getting a truck company in there, searching ahead and above the fire and the hose line whenever possible, because it is our job to trace bases of the people that are in there. We're fully encapsulated in the best Lion gear or whatever company you're wearing that money can buy, and they're sitting there in pajamas, and their airway can take only whatever Sean said earlier, 160 degrees. And according to Greg's Mayan calendar drawing of strategies and tactics, we have to support the search. And I
knew you could read the Mayan calendar. I knew it, dude. Hey, so to add to that too, though. So that there's a lot more that goes to that too. I get it. You got to shorten your answer up, but it's still going to be a little bit long. But the conditions are going to dictate. So the training, going back to the training of how to size the building up, how to check the conditions. Where's it pushing? Where's your vent points? There's a lot of that to go into when I can push out in front of the engine. I mean, if it's ripping floor to ceiling, you're not crawling through fire. That's when you go to the outside of the building. You can do VES on the first floor, which people don't realize. Hey, man, you don't always have to have a ladder to throw it to the second floor to call it VES. You can dive in a window and get behind the fire, search the rest of the building, go out the back door, that type deal.
That's why
the big problem is I think everybody is trying to safety themselves out of being effective. And
100%.
That is like, come on, you're going to get a little soot on your nose. You might have a little, your ears might blister a little bit, something along that lines. You're going to get hot. You're going to get uncomfortable. Things are going to happen, but you huge have to handle your tasks. Whatever your task is, tactically, whatever your task may be, have to be.
Huge to piggyback on what you just said. The incoming rescue, you would have to talk to your blue in the face to convince me otherwise, needs to do a 360 of the structure to figure out exactly what's going on in that structure, what the building is telling you, what the fire is telling you before you get in. Don't just do a blind, I'm going right, I'm going left.
I'm reading Negley's comment. I'm sorry.
Oh, I can't see it. What is it?
Are you on your phone?
Hey,
yeah, bro. So I'm gonna get your computer, Pablo.
So Negley said, "Hey, so engines can search, engines rule," and then he goes, "Trucks can't touch hose; they're allergic."
Hey,
That's an engine, man.
Yeah.
That's an engine, man.
Well, hey, so Greg, to touch on what you were talking about, and we hit on it earlier. We literally are safetying ourselves out of a fucking job,
Yeah.
and there's fucking SOPs. There's everything for fucking safety, and it started with clean cab. It started with fucking all this nonsense, and the reality is, look, every single person that got into the fire service realized that, hey, there's a potential that something bad could happen. And so I had the opportunity to be with Rob today, and we were talking to one of the goats, Bill Gustin, and he said something that was fucking classic, and me and Rob laughed about it and drank a beer over it. And it was talking about the coronavirus, and it all ties in together. He goes, hey, he goes, everyone's so fucking scared of the coronavirus. He goes, you're more likely to die driving home. So he taps Rob on the back. He goes, hey, you know what? Just walk home instead. And literally turned around and walked away. And that's the reality of it. We are safetying ourselves out of a job.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
my phone must have been broken today to go down there. Thanks, guys. Appreciate that.
so before you know it, we're going to end up trying to be so safety conscious that there is going to be no more interior firefighting if they keep trying to go the way they're going.
Absolutely.
The reality is that we're fucking firemen. We signed up for a job, and stop being a bitch. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, there's no other way to say it. Stop being a bitch. Do your job, and let's leave it at that.
Wait,
Fear.
Greg. What is it? They write policies for the weak person.
Fact. And you can't manage
You're
fear.
welcome
You can't
for that.
manage risk. Yo, you cannot manage risk from a position of fear.
Well,
And
so
fear is a lousy leader. You cannot be the leader who's leaning so heavily on fear and safety that you do not operate and do your job. Your job is important.
Yeah.
So here's
Greg.
here's another thing. I read the book. Alex Honnold. He's a free climber. He's unbelievable. The way this dude focuses on stuff. But in his book, he talks about risk versus consequence. And when he did, I actually read that section again because I was like, that is so money. What he's saying. He was like, I can control the risk. I can drop the risk down to minimum to where he's free climbing these whatever 2,800 3,000 square foot or 3,000 foot walls. He's like, I can eliminate the risk down to zero. He goes, but if I lose focus or I don't do what I'm supposed to, I can't control the consequences that are going to happen.
Absolutely.
And when he said that, I was like, that is so 100% fire service. I don't even know where to go from that. It blew my mind. I wrote it down and I'm like, I don't even know how I'm going to use it, but I'm definitely going to say it one time somewhere. And I did.
There you go.
I said,
So
I'm done.
My question: when did we stop? Seriously, when did we stop making decisions off of tactics and started making decisions off of fear? That's we could go into day 2 on this. Like I make tactical decisions on the fire ground, and this is me, by the way. When I say I make, for everybody that's watching, me as a tailboard, yes, I make tactical decisions on the fire ground as to how I'm going to attack certain things, how I'm going to throw a ladder, where I'm going to begin my search, how I'm going to search, et cetera, how I'm going to stretch. Yes, as a tailboard, I make tactical decisions on a fire ground based off of tactical knowledge, not off of fear.
I've got a name. What's the name, Greg?
Tailboard intuition, backseat intuition. That's what it's called. Tom Johnson can't take credit for that, but those guys say that in their book. Oh, and by the way,
Boom.
came in, Tom.
Boom.
I can't believe he charged me $160 for that though. But whatever, that doesn't matter. But anyways, the tailboard or backseat intuition, and when we were talking about that with Tom, even off air, it was money. Their podcast talks about it as well. It was like, now when I go back with certain things, that I look at, you got to have that. You got to have that tailboard, that backseat intuition to where that dude is going to make decisions. It's going to make my life easier from sitting in the front.
Oh, dude, 100%. I'm so big on, and whenever I talk about this with anybody, I say my job is to make sure that you never have to do my job. At the point that you have to do my job, that means that I'm taking away from you doing your job. I know that's a little bit of a runaround, but think about that for a second. At the point that you are no longer giving 100% to being the officer in charge of that scene, because you have to give 10% to fucking making sure that I'm not fumble fucking the line or fumble fucking whatever the hell I'm doing. At that point, you're not giving 100% of making sure that that scene is running smooth, up to and including keeping me safe. Because I am fumble fucking your job by not doing my job.
100%.
I like it. Does that count with signing off all the narcotics and medications? Because I'm pretty much horrible at that.
Hey, so
I'm an EMT dog.
Wow,
so-
there you go, man.
That doesn't matter.
hey, so
Hey,
Sean
Go
and Pablo, man, we truly appreciate you guys coming in. And we want to sit here and do this again with you guys. So we appreciate all the nuggets you guys have dropped, everything on the guys. It's been amazing. I'm talking to Rob.
Hold on. Somebody's got some feedback going on.
If anyone,
I think it's Sean. Nope.
Not
yeah,
I.
an echo.
Anyone?
Might be
Someone-
you. Herb.
Okay, we're getting time.
Is it good now? I think it's good now.
Nope. All right. Well, Pablo and Sean, man, we appreciate you guys coming in. Honestly, we want you guys to come back. Hey, Pablo, Josh Castro said he's not leaving this yet until you take your shirt off.
Thank you for your service.
Good job.
Hey, Rob, how many F-bombs did Pablo drop tonight?
I stopped counting at 274.
Listen, 274. That's a solid number.
That's solid.
Yeah, Josh. No, I won't do that. Real quick, man. I'll leave you guys on this, and I would hate myself if I don't talk about this. Anybody out there that wants to teach, anybody out there, please do yourself a favor. Learn, teach. I really want people to teach. I want everybody to be a badass. I want badasses to my left. I want badasses to my right. I want badasses in front of me. I don't want anybody to not be a badass. You want to fucking teach. But if there's one piece of advice that I'll give anybody out there is don't overstep the boundaries of what you can teach. I don't work for New York City. I'm not going to fucking teach how to take bulkhead doors because I would look like a fucking buffoon. Sean and I, our bread and butter stuff that we are passionate about it stays on the private dwelling because that's what our bread and butter is. And the low staff company, the low staff truck company, the low staff search, et cetera, et cetera. That's where the bread and butter is. Truck work off of an ambulance. That's where the bread and butter is. I'm not going to go and try to teach a squad company class. I'm not going to try to go do things that is out of my bread and butter. Can I do them? Can I do them? Yes. Can I? But is it something that's like that I do at my own work? No. So I try to. I do not teach anything that is out of my bread and butter. And that's basically, if I was going to give anybody some advice out there, because I know there's a lot of guys out there that have reached out to us. They're like, hey, can we teach with you? Can we do this? Can we do this? Man, I want everybody to fucking teach. I want everybody to be a badass, but just stick. I'm not trying to say stick to your lane, but just understand what you're teaching and just make sure that you're not teaching something that you don't do, that you're just regurgitating off of someone that you heard. So, that's. I'm
gonna add to that, Pablo. understand, like, when you take it upon yourself to be an instructor and teach something, you're directly liable for what happens. When people come to your classes or they read something that you post and they choose to do that, that's on you. So when they get hurt or killed or, you know, anything of that nature, your words and what you're teaching has an impact. You better make sure that it's correct. State of Florida, unfortunately, is very lax on what the requirements for instructors are. Anybody can teach a class. You can make a curriculum, you can teach it. That doesn't mean that what you're teaching is right. So just be careful who you choose to listen to and make sure you validate that information and the person who's teaching it before you put stock in it.
Absolutely. Ask whenever someone's giving you fucking direction, ask questions. Don't just fucking go back to the firehouse because some guy in a really tight shirt wearing Train to Live fucking told me to do something. No, man. Ask about your instructors. Find out where they're from. Hey man, is this guy fucking teaching me about how to take bulkhead doors? But fucking man, his first 2 district is just literally private dwellings. What the fuck is this? Hey, is this guy teaching me? This guy's teaching me low staffing, a low staffing truck company, but he works on a tiller company in fucking whatever city that's fucking dropping 8 guys on a tiller. Damn. So ask and find out, and ask questions. Ask a lot of questions because like these guys hit up earlier with Tyler, for example. We love it. We love it when you ask questions because it shows us that you're engaged, and at the same time, it makes us show you guys that we're just not randomly regurgitating shit off of a book. So please ask questions and find out who your instructors are. Really, 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 really.
100%.
Absolutely.
Hey,
thank you guys. Appreciate you. Thank you for having us on. Seriously, thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Hey, Pablo and Sean, bro. We want to get you guys back on. Fucking phenomenal, and we'll be in contact soon.
Absolutely, brother. You just say the word.
I say we hit this again because this subject can never be beat up too much. This is a big deal.
Absolutely. Thank you, boys. Seriously.
Thank you very much.
All right, boys.
Later, Pablo.
Later, Pablo.
Yo. Nuggets.
Oh, Nuggets on Nuggets. Those guys were awesome. Dude, I got 3 pages of notes, man.
Nuggets were dropped, boys.
No doubt.
Great fucking dudes. Passionate about their craft, and that's what brings guys like us. There's a small group of guys that are literally just gravitate to each other. Sean, Pablo, those guys, we all gravitate towards each other because we're all in it for the same reason. You're not in this job for money. Everyone knows that you are not going to get rich being a fireman. We do this shit because we care, and fucking phenomenal. I can't say enough great things about this podcast and what happened.
I totally agree with you, Herb. I had a blast. These guys came up and hit a home run. I knew they would. They give great information. Their classes are solid. They've been doing a lot of training the last year, 2, 3, 4, all over the circuit. I knew that we would have a great time with them, and the information they have is relevant. And we're a South Florida based company. They're Central Florida guys, and it was relevant to our immediate audience. And I hope that anyone that was watching tonight got something out of it. Thank you for signing on. I personally want to thank every name I recognized on there tonight, man. I actually wrote them down. If you give me a second, Jason Lynn from Hillsborough, Dan Jodwin, Marion County, Sabeda from the Beach, Danny Erickson from Hartford, Connecticut, Tyler from Clearwater, Steve Nagley, OFD and OFC, Shane Bentley and Lee Humphreys from Georgia, Josh Castro from Cigar City Fools, and the list goes on and on and on. So many of you guys chimed in tonight. People I look up to, people I admire from afar, guys that are like-minded and I consider brothers. And thank you for this opportunity to let us sit around and talk shop and you guys listen to it. And if you grab one thing out of this fucking podcast, man, it was a home run. And I hope you enjoyed your Friday night. God bless, man.
Hey, 100. What about you, Greg? Anything?
Yeah, I like that. I like that. There's no egos on this show. We talk a little smack. We admit our faults and we try to make it better. And I think when you're in this arena, and just like Sean said, man, you're delivering information to people, and they're gonna hold that info until you're proven wrong or going somewhere else or something along that lines. I think it's a big deal. So it makes me stay on top of my game, and I think I got quite a bit of little things, little nuggets here and there to offer, and I enjoy doing it. And then when you start talking to people like Sean and Pablo, they start shaking cobwebs loose out of your head, or they start making you want to dig deeper into something that you think you know about, but you don't really know about.
One.
And I think that's cool, man. Um, and I got a couple things to look up that they brought up, and I got a couple things that I'm gonna do a little bit different with my crew, especially when I go teach, man. When I go do stuff, I'm gonna reach out a little bit more. I feel we do, but I think you can reach out more. The one thing I do want to do is on on my little truck company ops app that I have, or Instagram that I got going on. I had some hard-headed fools from Little Rock, Arkansas, reach out to me today, and I missed their picture 35 weeks ago or something like that. And they reached out to me, and they were talking about some search and some writ and stuff like that. So I'm gonna give the hard-headed fools out of Arkansas a little shout out, and I do appreciate it. Sorry I missed that pick.
Well,
Awesome.
so we're gonna wrap this up. Like Rob said, we appreciate you guys tuning in. It's I say it every time. The feedback has been phenomenal. Uh, we're nothing special. We're just we're a bunch of like-minded firemen that are trying to pass on information to you guys. Uh, so with a couple of announcements, we got 2 spots left for the Advanced Rescue and Survival School coming up. It's going to be at Indian River. Treasure Coast Fools are holding the Brotherhood Bash the night of the 8th of January. It's going to be a ball buster of a class. We're looking forward to it. We have the Dirty South Engine and Truck School coming up in March. I believe it's the 9th through the 12th. That's going to be held at Indian River Fire College. So we're looking forward to that as well. And then, as always, we want to thank the sponsors, Breach Point USAR, Hydrant Wear Apparel, First Do Screen Printing. If you guys haven't checked those guys out, they are the sole provider of NRC. They do all the shirts, everything, the hats, jackets, everything. They are the guys who take care of us. MECO Fire. They are your equipment needs. They're going to take care of you guys. Reach out to them for all your equipment needs. The best in the game, honestly. The Can Man Radio Show, and then Nozzleman Leather. If you guys need anything from any leather works for chin straps, anything like that, reach out to Nozzleman Leather. And with that being said, one hell of a podcast, boys.
I had a blast, my gentlemen. I had a blast.
Hey, always a pleasure. Greg, Rob, I'll see you guys on the next one.
All right, on. Take care, boys.